off or worked really hard during it. Anyways, opening roll call, secretary. Ready?
Michael Aldinger.
Here.
Mike Anderson.
Here.
Ruth Canagaraja. Here. Mark Hannon.
Here.
Ralph
Here.
Carrillo. Adam Throne. Pat Gordon. Nicholas Hines. Hubert Hines. Andrew Karasak.
Here.
Gavin Behrens.
There.
John King. Daniel Lurch.
Here.
Sam Wilder.
Here.
Sorry. Benjamin Lombard.
Here.
Nick Vance.
Here.
Sean Leroy.
Here.
Sorry. Samantha Miller.
Here.
Huzaifa Munn.
Or the president, or the. Okay. I can have that.
Christopher Knock. Lisa Opelberg. Here. Joanne Olson. Here. Brian Cohen.
Here.
Kelly Potter. Here. Megan Quinn.
Here.
Christian Dragman. Valerie Russell.
Present.
Philip Slusser. Slusser, sorry. Richard Szymanski. Colleen Smith.
Here.
Matthew Smith.
Present.
Michael Smith.
Here.
Ricardo Torres.
Here.
Ian Vickery.
Here.
Michael Wallace. Kara Singer.
Here.
Nicole Zini.
Here. Okay, moving on to item 2, adoption of the agenda. Are there any objections to the agenda as it is now? Representative Karasik?
I make a motion to have all confirmations, all speeches by conferment, I believe would be the word, 2 minutes instead of 5.
Second.
Can we do that?
You have to suspend it.
It's the 5. So at that time, can we suspend it? Or can we do it
It's
now?
not going to take that long, anyways. Let's be
It's
realistic.
5 minutes. All right.
Any other objections to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, agenda adopted. Moving on, item number 3, adoption of the past journal meeting minutes. You should have received these on the 21st, or from the 21st, via email. Are there any objections to the past meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none, minutes adopted. Item 4, open student forum. Are there any students here to address the assembly? Mr. Lockman?
Yeah, I'm the nominee for the Deputy Commissioner for Administration Advocacy. I have another obligation later tonight, so I hope I'll be back in time for that part of it, but I wanted to introduce myself at this point and answer any questions. My name is Matthew Lockman, as I said. I've worked with UPA Legal Affairs for the past 3 years. I'm a junior, majoring in political science and economics. And last year I served as the chair of the elections hearing group. And as I said, I'm now nominated for Commissioner for Administration and Advocacy.
So you'll stand for questions? Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Lockman? You're going to be doing this later, or Mr. Carvello?
Matt, we discussed this a little before your approval by ID, but are you, last year there was some clarification or some miscommunication on what the role of this was. Basically to be a prosecutor on behalf of the commission. Are you completely sure all the kinks have been worked out and you understand your role in that capacity?
Absolutely.
How do you see your role in that capacity? What do you mean you understand?
I see my role as twofold. First of all is to make sure I have excellent communication with all the candidates, so they can understand what the rules are, and they can clarify things with me. One of the problems last year was miscommunication, so I want to make sure that we're clear with the candidates what a violation is, that we're clear amongst all the commissioners, so all the commissioners are on the same page and give the same answer. So that's sort of the preemptive thing, trying to prevent as many violations as possible. And then the second part of my role is when violations do occur, as Ralph said, I'll serve as the prosecutor of sorts. And the election hearing board will be the one to actually decide whether or not a violation has occurred. I would present the charges to the election hearing board and present the evidence that I have that a violation occurred.
Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other students here to address the assembly? Nope. Okay, moving on. Report by the president, Mr. Kierans.
What's up? I actually there's a report in front of you, and I'll just keep this brief because I know we have a long meeting. Just talk about a little bit of what went down on Friday. It's the activity fee board. As you can see in the third bullet point, the good news is now that we have 5% of the overall undergraduate student activity fee. So moving forward, we now have the foundation to really create positive initiatives and come in with a game plan and actually execute. The whole first semester, well, great part of the first semester was dealt with, trying to secure funding, trying to get funds, and luckily we were able to do that to some degree. But now we'll have roughly $140,000 going in next year. We really can come in next year and have a strong plan, really, do some meaningful things and have money to do within ourselves, not having to constantly go to other boards and that type of thing. So as far as the foundation, as far as having a steady stream of flow, we do have that now. The other not so good news, if you read the email, you read the newspaper, legal services didn't pass. That was basically cut down the middle. The Commonwealth campuses voted against it, and the UPUA and GSA voted for it. I'm still optimistic that through conversations and through other interaction that we can make that a reality, because that's been identified as a clear need by this body, and it's something that we've been working on hard as an organization this year. So I'm really hopeful that that can come to fruition. I don't think the past is as easy as it once was, or as clear as it once was, but it might be tough, but I think we can still get it done. I have meeting with Damon DeMar to talk specifically about that, and I'm hopeful that, again, that we can come to some sort of compromise with the campuses. Another thing that I want to bring your attention to is something that George Corey and I had really talked about today, and are going to move forward with it. Is this Monday we have a press conference at Old Main, press conference / rally at Old Main, and this is something that I'm going to need all your help with, and I expect your attendance at this event. Basically today it was announced that 6% was cut from the state appropriations, roughly around $20 million, as well as it was also announced that the 14 community colleges and 14 state schools would all receive some type of aid through this new funding through video gambling. While this is definitely great to see that this is a priority as far as education and looking at aid, unfortunately for state-related schools, Penn State being included, were left out of this. As a result, there's a clear need and clear discrepancy in that. And I think it's something that we need to address and really look at, and we need a public display really to address this. So again, that's Monday, 12 noon. I'll be sending out emails across the listserv, but I expect your attendance. That's it for today.
Any questions? Representative Szymanski?
Yes, do you know how long that press conference is going to last outside of the meeting?
I would say probably a half hour to an hour. I sent an email out to the other presidents. Originally, we were supposed to have a president's meeting this Sunday, but I actually canceled that, and I sent one out right for this meeting to kind of encourage them to attend that as well, kind of show solidarity. I've heard back from a few of them, IFC Panhandle, George talked to NAACP. So hopefully we can add to that group, and hopefully the different groups that we have here represented can hopefully get the membership to attend. So I'm very hopeful that this can be a successful event and a strong show by UPUA.
Any other questions? Representative Karasek?
So, writing
Please stand.
Thank you. This writing is a little ambiguous, so
I don't think so.
thanks, Gab. The four state-related schools are receiving the video poker fund, the video gambling funding, or not receiving?
The video gambling funds basically will go towards funding the aid for the 14 state schools and the 14 community colleges, not to the state-related schools. to answer your question. So now, I mean, this is just proposed, it's not 100%, but it just came out today, and it's kind of good to hit the iron while the iron's hot.
Other questions? Representative Malloy?
Yeah, who, is the UPUA organizing this, or who exactly is organizing
Well, basically, it's UPUA GSA, I mean UPUA CCSG, mainly myself, George Corey. I spoke with Sam today, and I know George spoke with Kate Mattis as well, to kind of put the focus on this. It's chiefly UPUA, CCSG, but other organizations will be invited that are kind of bigger. Some of the main organizations. That being said, I expect it to the main presence of the UPUA, CCSG, with myself and George kind of taking the lead.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Moving on to special presentations, we have the ABTS presentation, so you are sharing. Okay, hello everyone.
Let me take a moment.
Okay, about a month ago we went to the Association of Big Ten Students, which is a conference hosted every semester by one of the 11 schools, and every school sends a delegation of their student government. So I went, and Mr. Karasik went, and these are our adventures together over that weekend. Okay, so that's basically what I just told you. You can move on. These are, it's very hard to see, but in the white, these are the people that attended out of the 11, or the schools that had attendees. In black, University of Michigan, University of Minnesota, Northwestern, and Wisconsin were unable or unwilling to send delegates. So I put this slide together just to give them a basic rundown. On the Saturday morning, every school that were attended went through and talked about what they had, what their respective student governments were working on. These are just some highlights. Obviously, you all know what you're working on, but these were some of the things that we really emphasized. And Mr. Karasik definitely talked about the elections a lot, which many of the delegates were very interested in.
We have one of the most comprehensive election processes of any of the Big Ten schools, which the other universities have been contacting us to attempt to mirror, actually. They were rather impressed by that. So we went through a lot of that. A lot of the things that we have here, especially tenant landlord, I received an email today regarding the book exchange. Other universities now want to implement. So UPUA is actually from where we were 2 years ago to not even be recognized by this organization. We are now considered to be basically leading the pack, which is pretty impressive. Thank you, Rick.
This is just more of what we talked about with them. You all know what you're doing. Academic affairs. Okay, so what we did throughout Saturday and into Sunday as well is we had breakout sessions, standard style. If any of you have attended ABTS, we hosted it in August. So the first breakout session was about academic affairs. The top bullet here is what a lot of schools, primarily I think Michigan State and Purdue, they had a lot to say about academic affairs at their schools. Also Illinois, they don't think that their classroom technology is up to par. From a Penn State perspective, I would say that ours is half up to par. We have a lot of classrooms, obviously, at undergraduate. The undergraduate students use a lot that are good, that have all the technology. we need, other classrooms do not. And this led into discussions about just generally like spaces in classrooms. I know some of you might have Willard classrooms that are atrocious, the form building, etc. So this was breakout session number 1, all those other bullets you can read. Student government budget. We went to this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
For student government budget, what we did was, we basically talked about each of the student government explained how they received their funding and how much they received. Now, it's interesting, if you look at the sheer numbers, and you look at our progression over the past couple of years, we have moved to about the middle of the pack. Last year, when we received $32,000 from the Funding Allocation Board, we were in the very low end. We actually received the least amount of funding of any student government. But for $140,000, we're actually in the middle of the pack, if you look at sheer numbers. But that's because groups, whereas UPAC is a separate group here at University Park, at schools like Michigan State, Ohio State, and others, the programming is part of their government. So when you actually take in the amount of the money that the student activity fee equals in total, we actually have more money coming in than any other Big Ten school, pretty much 4 times Michigan State's, because if you do the math, it's about $5 million, give or take. And so we have actually more money coming in than all the other schools, but that money, only $140,000 is to the grants.
Yeah, and a lot of schools, like Michigan State is the best example of this. I know when we were working to secure funding from the student activity fee, we were going for that 5%, and there was a Collegian article, plus Gavin was talking about it, and many of you probably attended student activity fee board meeting, kept up on it. Michigan State is the best example of student government receiving adequate funding because they receive the most. Now with that said, they are able to allocate, serve as an allocation board like our UPAC does. Okay, in student life, this was another one of the breakout sessions. Basically, like us, like student governments across the Big Ten, we always want to see some sort of, we always want to see some sort of a culture shift around our alcohol culture, around our sports culture. To some extent, that's why students come here, and you don't want to totally kill those off, but there should be less emphasis on them. And a way that, students, we kind of came to the consensus that students, they're here, they're lonely, they try to participate in activities that they think are normal, and so they involve themselves in this sort of culture that they think is good, productive, and we all know that it's not. So to kind of overcome this, we need to have better first year engagement for students. Like Purdue, I forget what it's called, but they have, when David talks later, maybe he would know more about it. Purdue has like this huge celebration. Other schools, they have like week-long, like stay in the dorm type activities where first year students can come. And this also would go to like non-traditional students, adult learners, etc., trying to engage them more.
Purdue has an optional week-long program for orientation for freshman students, which I found very interesting because it's actually one of the things that I think is really lacking here, and it's one place that we could gain more interest in organizations like UPUA, not just the freshmen. So basically they bring the students out, the students pay a nominal fee for meals and housing for that week, but it gets them acquainted to the university community in a way that they don't feel outsiders at a school that would be this size.
Okay, it seems that in the governmental affairs breakout session that a lot of schools were kind of seeking a statewide consortium, sort of like what Sam Miller and her committee has already thought about. So we didn't really learn anything new because they're in the sort of development stages, communication stages of that. For example, Purdue student government is talking to University of Indiana student government to sort of get a consortium together for lobbying efforts, etc. So good job, governmental affairs.
Certain things that we learned in this class, each university is obviously very different and similar in other ways. With the governmental affairs aspect from the funding realm, obviously we are the only state-related university of the Big Ten. All the others are state schools, they receive much more appropriation. Now that's a good and a bad thing. The reason why it's a good thing is, for us, is because we can do things more like a private school. For instance, we can build buildings faster than the federal government or any other group like that because we don't go through the state. Whereas Illinois, Purdue, other schools were actually, they were complaining that one of their biggest issues they face is that the state does not approve their buildings quickly enough, so they don't get renovations to their buildings. But on the flip side, their tuition's less. It's about half of what ours is. And we deal with that on a regular basis.
All right, we're gonna have to go more quickly through the rest of these things. Culture and minority student affairs. What comes to mind a lot about this is Michigan State actually, they have a big problem with their housing. We don't have that sort of a problem. Where actually, we have it to some extent, I guess you could say, that Representative Malloy probably have more to say about this, yes? Okay, I'm shaking your head, so. Basically, you say you want to live a certain place, you live there, and it's like self-segregation. So that's basically what's going on their campus. To some extent that happens here, less so based on what we talked about. Just move on, we're running out of time.
This is one that I sat in on working with administrators. The schools did a very interesting take on it. I think, I'll be honest, I think we're a little jaded here at University Park after some of the stuff that we've had in years past with administrators. And other universities have not exactly had the problems that we've had. Some of these students who were at this conference were amazed to learn some of the things we've gone through just to get UPUA up and running. And so really, at one point, one of the student governments was actually talking about how they can work to cut costs and improve their budget as if it were the student's job, and and yes, they do need to help the administration with that, but it's a very different outlook in essence. Although our relationships with our administrators are definitely improving, I think we have a different outlook on that, and because of what's happened in the past, we come to it from a different place. And so we discussed some of these things. And we actually discussed possibly having the vice presidents of student affairs come to a future ABTS meeting to work with us and see exactly what the other schools are doing. So that's another thing.
That was a contentious issue. Transfer students. Again, this gets back to first year engagement. I know that Matt Smith's going to be working on some of this already to cater to non-traditional students. University of Illinois really struggles with this. Move on. These are just highlights so you can talk to us after. We're running out of time.
We have the safest campus in the Big Ten. We're also voted one of the safest cities in the country, so that's something that we don't exactly face. Safe Ride program, however, is something that we're going to try to implement. It's something that came up in the brainstorming section. We can talk more about that in the coming weeks as we put it into action. We went through university budgeting issues. Student rights. The other universities had more of a legal rights outlook, as in their alcohol policies, legal policies. For instance, in Illinois, you only have to be 19 to enter a bar, 21 to drink, so they face a lot more underage drinking in bars, a lot more citations from that. One of the pamphlets going out there is student rights, and you can see Illinois actually has a much stricter alcohol policy than we do. But we did talk about that. Ohio State, for instance, one thing that we found interesting was that they appoint their hearing board, which is something that Ralph is looking to implement here. They also have control over their hearing board. So whereas we look at student rights as more of a global issue in that the rights of the students are on both on campus and off. They look at it more of an off-campus issue than dealing in intensive schools.
And just a word on that is, I think Ohio State, but I know University of Illinois, well, I think both of them, they actually have bars technically on their campuses, which is very surprising to me. Okay, moving on, United Big Ten Front, you went to that.
Yeah, we talked about, at this one, we actually talked about how to move ABTS in the right direction.
Tell us what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, what I think about ABTS was, although it's definitely beneficial for us to go to it, what's really beneficial is to send new members each time. To send the same members each time would pretty much be useless because in its current state, it is network. Which, although good, we can use money for other things. However, what I want to move and I said this to the meeting, what we want to move the ABTS towards is an actual union of all the student governments that not only networks, but lobbies and speaks out on higher educational issues and is a model across the nation for consortiums in each of the various conferences. And so what we're hoping to do is work with the Big Ten Conference and the academic side of that, work with each of the school administrations to try to enhance ABTS's mission.
Well, this stuff is old news to all of us, connecting with the student body. I mean, this was just a lot of talk. I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of action to it. We've kind of overcome a lot of these struggles this year with Gavin being so outspoken and active. Good job.
Media interaction. We have one of the best relationships with the school newspaper. We have one of the best relationships with the school newspaper here with our student government, and we also have one of the most powerful student newspapers, which is something to consider when working with the media.
And very unique. A lot of student governments do not have a good relationship with their paper. Common goals. Again, like Andrew was just saying, some sort of a unified front is what he took out of it. They're interested in like Facebook groups and things like that. We need to get past that. Let's move on to something a little bit more creative. Go ahead. Okay, and this is something that I found out very close to actually leaving. It was a panel that I sat on, and there's 6 out of the 11 Big Ten schools participating in the student leadership program. Like we have we have all the kiosks throughout campus. Most of them will have their local paper, New York Times, USA Today, and to some extent their student newspaper is affiliated with that readership program as well. We have the largest and by most counts best readership program based on number of kiosks and the number of users. So I said a lot of positive things. This will be available for your viewing pleasure on usatodaycollege.com. Sometime you can see me. I don't know if that's going to be a good idea, but final thoughts?
Well,
go ahead.
What I really took out of this was 2 things. Number 1, we deal with some issues with administration more so than other campuses. And that's things that we are working towards, but most especially in the past, we have had some more trouble with administration. And with that, our student government has less influence as of now, although it is growing on campus. At the same time, our student government, UPUA, is, and I know I'm biasing this, by far the best. We are concerned much more with protecting the student rights and protecting the individual student than programming or things like that. And so our goals here and what we do in this room is much more organized than what the other schools do. We went there with very serious minds that not all the other schools conveyed that their student government works in the same way. And some schools, aesthetically, their student government has more. For instance, Illinois has a student government complex, but that's about it. What, too much?
Okay, move on to the next slide. Let's go. We have pictures too. Okay, these are not very clear. Maybe I can send out some to you.
Well, you will email them.
Yeah. I want to show them the one picture though. Go. This actually says like Student Senate, Illinois Student Senate room, where executive officers have their room. They have a student organization complex, student government complex. That's interesting, isn't it?
It's actually called the student government complex.
Yeah, and
That's the president.
there's
That's the president, not of the university. The president of the student body's desk.
so
They
Captain
actually have their own
Kieran's.
office.
There's your desk.
Huh? And also their elevator, they actually have a swipe card in their elevator. They have a private elevator that takes them right into their office. No joke, which is an interesting thing. And that's it. And Indiana State Highway.
Okay.
Order, please. Is there any objection to extending time about 5 minutes to see if there are any questions? See no objection, we'll extend the time to 5 minutes. Are there any questions for either Mr. Kerrigan or the Vice President? Representative Lombard, please stand.
I have two questions. First, you stated earlier with the different schools that did attend, that some of them chose not to attend. You know why that is, and also the Illinois brochure that you passed out showed a little program that said if your car breaks down, something like that, they'll jump over your car. You know if there's anything at Penn State like that?
I don't know the answer to the second question. The first question, well, like Mr. Harrison said, we're the best, and we're proactive when we know what's going on. Before it actually happens, I mean, we were even a little bit slow in getting the funding to go. But there's something on Michigan's website about they weren't sure that their anticipation of the event, their expectations would be met. And other schools, maybe they think the same or they've had bad experiences in the past. We were going the more optimistic point of view and trying to learn something and maybe even teach the other student governments a couple of things. So I'm not exactly sure, so I guess I have no answers to either of those questions.
Further questions? Representative Nance?
Brief question, where, from what you guys learned, does Penn State rank in the Big Ten in terms of these extra student fees and public tuition that we have some facilities fee, student activity?
By far the highest. I can just tell you that. By far the highest. Our student activity fee is at least twice and sometimes four times that of other schools. No other university has anything close to a $74 student activity fee. And technology fees, things like that. No facilities fee. No other university has those fees. To the extent that we do.
Further questions? Representative Boyle?
Yeah, when you said like the relationship with the media, does Cambridge like not cover what the student government does at all? Or like,
No, they cover it. It's very negative, usually very critical. So it's very difficult for other student governments to sort of be the voice when they're being criticized at least once a week after they have their General Assembly type meeting.
Further questions? One quick question. Representative?
this is dealing with the Big Ten schools. Are academically are there also just though in the conference? Is it Chicago?
No.
Or,
That's-
yeah,
Academic.
looked at as a peer institution.
well, that's what was, okay. if you're
They're
looking
not
at-
included in this conference.
Why are they included if you look at for the study aspect as a peer institution?
I don't know.
It's more the
Maybe we should look into that.
It's for the integration of the entire university system. It's the same that Damon and the other vice presidents for student affairs meet, but that's only at the 11 schools. The presidents meet. It's really, those are what the schools that are considered to be part of the Big Ten. And I'm sorry, Gavin corrected me. We have the highest student activity fee. However, we do not have the highest fees all around. That varies from other schools. We actually have some of the lowest total fees, but we have the highest student activity.
That's all your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, I'm meeting now.
Chad Polinsky. Do you want to come up to the mic? Okay. Matt, it's just my computer. It's nothing special. It's clear. You can mess with it if you want. Just don't do the pictures. Yes, yes, that's a house. Oh, it's from Bratislava.
Yeah, Mr. Bratislava.
Yeah. I'm a world traveler.
If I can introduce, you guys all know me, but this is Chad Polinsky, the president of the Agricultural Science Student Council. Give him a lot. What we wanted to briefly talk about was the Ag Sci Student IT Board. I have some basic outline information up here. What is going on in the College of Agricultural Science is that they have put together a graduate and undergraduate joint board that manages the IT fee for the college. The college allocates them 2/3 of the IT fee collected by their students. For those who don't know how the IT fee breaks down for the university, every college based on student enrollment receives a certain percentage of the IT fee. And so the pool is, I think, like 23,000 or 24,000 for Ag Sci, and they get, well, that's at 30 something, so they get 2/3 of that. And they're supposed to require for matching funds from their department for any proposal that goes through. Any some of the proposals that they've approved that have given me the incentive and improved, or basically shown the benefit of this throughout the university, that I'm working with business and with arts and architecture to develop similar works. So the reason why I brought Mr. Polinsky in tonight is to take any questions you guys might have about this, and also just to kind of talk about his own experiences with the student IT board. So, Chad.
Okay, I'll keep this short. I believe I have 7 minutes left since we started. But basically, since we had such a low number of applicants, we decided to do another run in the second half of the semester. We got another $12,000 awarded in the second half of the semester. This is actually the second year this proposal has been started. And what they do is they fill out basically a one-page proposal saying what they want to use it for. And then if it gets approved, within 1 year, they have to report back to the student council to show the student council and the students how their money is actually being used. Some of them up here are, up there we have food sciences for a couple of 497 level classes. Lots of GPSs for the new forestry building. The College of Ag Sciences just has a brand new forest resource building, and they're really trying to get that underway. Just basically a makeup of our committee is we have our associate dean for undergraduate education, and then we have a member from the graduate ed office. There was 3 members on the committee from the exec committee from the Ag Student Council, and there was a representative from the Graduate Advisory Council. So we basically sat down and just hammered out the proposals in one day. If we didn't like them, we wrote back and told them why. And if we did approve some upon that they would correct something. 497 class can't be around forever, so we gave them money pending that they filled out the paperwork to show us that they were taking the steps to make the class a permanent class within our college. So I'll field any questions right now if anyone has any.
Any questions?
Phil.
Well, just in addition to that, also one of the latest allocation was to Professor Al Jarrett. He does soil and water conservation and management, and they've got a new surveying equipment for all this stuff.
Brought our total this year to $20,000. So that's $20,000 of our money that we turned around, that we used it in something that to update our technology so our parents and us aren't using the same technology. Because the goal of the college is to train people on technology so that when they graduate, they're ready to go out in the field on the latest and greatest.
Representative Knock.
Can you repeat once again how you raised that money?
That money is just from our student technology fee that's in everyone's tuition. You look on your bursar and every student is billed a part of that. And then I believe 2/3 of that money comes back to us, and that is through our dean that he just decided that money, instead of him allocating it, needs to be decided where to go by us.
Mr. Crivello.
Have you found that professors, I assume that those are the largest that group, are receptive to the idea of coming for a student body in order to basically petition to get this money?
It's been fairly responsive in our feedback. What we do is, through the student council, we have representatives from every club that's in the college bag. And so we send out emails through all that. The Office of Undergrad and Graduate with Ed sends out offers to all the faculty and staff members, anyone that has a class assigned to them. And from there, they're always looking for ways to update their technology. Because one of the biggest problems we're running into is professors are using this, they're teaching with equipment from their laboratory. And this is a way for them to protect their own laboratory equipment from students that will be using it for the first time. And the first time, obviously, mishaps are going to happen. This way they can purchase their own equipment and teach the course.
Any other questions? Representative Slesser.
I've actually been going around to students and asking them, especially in our engineering building, we have a workshop down there, asking them what they need. I went to the head of the Department of Ag Engineering this week and asked him if he knew about it. Once he understood what I was talking about, he said, yes, I get this. And I received the email from the associate dean of my staff, and I asked him to please, the next round, talk to the students, because he sends all kinds of emails out to the students, so that he couldn't see it from the student perspective. He saw it from the professors seeing they knew, but I see it from the student side, thinking, I could learn better if I had this. They can take that to the professor, take it to the board, and get things for their classrooms that would help them learn better.
Any other questions? That wasn't quite a question, but that's okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and finally this evening we have Mr. Damon Sims, Vice President for Student Affairs.
Just a quick footnote to that last presentation. You may not know that you pay the highest technology fee in the Big Ten, so you know that you were circumspect about all that, paying attention to where it goes. I must apologize for being a little under the weather tonight, so if I fall into a coughing or sneezing spell, it has nothing to do with you. It's all me, and I hope I don't get you sick, but I know people who could get you into a health center if you do get sick, so you know that. I want to begin by thanking you for inviting me back. I was here last semester, I think, an interesting night, as I remember, for your group. I had a chance to talk to you then. I hope I get to say a few things tonight, but also I'd like to spend most of the limited time I have answering questions that you may have. But I really want to thank you for what you do, because I just came, interestingly enough, from Chicago, where I met with the other vice presidents for student affairs in the Big Ten for a couple of days. And in that conversation, someone asked, what is the thing that troubles you most about students on your campuses? What is the one thing, when you see it, that bothers you the most? And so I thought a few minutes before answering it, I decided that the answer was apathy. This is not a group that is apathetic. You have demonstrated over the span of the 6 months that I've been here, at least, that you're anything but apathetic. You're engaged in real issues. The presentations tonight demonstrate that aptly, and I think that's a credit to you. It's a credit to the larger student body here too. And I'm fortunate to get to work with the likes of you actually by the presentation about ABTS to be reminded again what I really believe, which is that your interest and mine and those of the colleagues I work with in student affairs are really congruous. We may not always agree with each other, but we're certainly trying to achieve the better ends in behalf of students at Penn State to ensure their success and that they get the most out of this experience, and the institution that aspires to be student-centered finds its way to attaining that ambition. And so I think that in concert with one another, again, agreeing to disagree at times, but always being open to conversations among us with one another about our different perspectives and how we can achieve that primary goal of making life better for students at Penn State. I think we can collectively make some headway on many of the issues that were listed on the ABTS PowerPoint. I don't have a PowerPoint. I came without a PowerPoint tonight. So I'm happy to talk to you about what I've been up to or just respond to your questions. I can tell you that very generally, some of the commentary earlier about the history here in terms of the relationship between student government, perhaps other student groups and students generally in the administration, that has been a central theme of what I've been trying to do for the 6 months I've been here. I've been trying to change that in small ways. One person can't change all of that overnight, but I think that being open and accessible and trying to demonstrate a little bit what I think student-centeredness is about, trying to encourage colleagues to see their relationships with students a little differently and incrementally perhaps making progress collectively. That's been a large part of my ambition. And I feel like, I don't know if the student leaders I've worked with feel this way, but I certainly feel that I've gotten a lot out of the interactions I've had with student leaders, and I feel like they've been very constructive dialogues. I know that Gavin and the likes of Gavin and I meet and talk regularly, and again, we don't always agree on everything, but we've certainly had very constructive dialogues that have advanced issues in various ways, and often in ways that may not be exactly where any party wanted things to wind up when they began the conversation, but we end up in some constructive place. I remember when I first got here, I was pulled into a meeting about 48 hours after I started, meeting with some other administrators who wanted to give me a primer on the facilities fee. Tell me, about the history of the facilities fee, what the expectations were about the facilities fee, show me the guidelines that they had constructed for the facilities fee. So, I dutifully listened. What do I know? I'm new here, but I'm also a person who likes to ask questions, so I asked some questions and suggested that, if I were a student leader, I'd certainly have some doubts about some of this, and I wouldn't be surprised if the student leaders that we get to deal with would have some of the same doubts. But it wasn't all that long before you were engaged in a conversation about the Facilities Fee Advisory Committee. You may remember that. A lot of water has gone into the bridge since then. That was one of the early resolutions I remember reading that you guys had put together. And it crafted a statement about your position vis-a-vis the Facilities Fee Advisory Committee, about who should be on it, how it should be constituted, how it would do its business. And it was clear that the UPUA Assembly's position on that resolution was one of student control over student money that was going to go to student purposes. Excuse me. I had a conversation very shortly after that, as I recall, with Gavin and with Alfonso Mendoza about where we were going or not going with the Facilities Fee Advisory Committee construct. And I said, for what it was worth, that I was fairly confident on the basis of my limited experience at Penn State and my limited experience with the people I've worked with and for, that student control of the money was not going to, in the end, flop. But there might be some middle ground. In fact, I think there was a vast middle ground that could be explored. And we had what I thought were very constructive conversations and a lot of going back and forth between us. And out of those conversations came a reconsideration consideration, both by the leadership of the UPUA and GSA, and very importantly, by the administration of the university that had thought some weeks before that they had concluded exactly how that was all going to play out. So there was a compromise. We're about to, I think, have the first meeting of the advisory committee for University Park. You probably know that the advisory committee is going to be co-chaired by Gavin and Alfonso, which is an arrangement that I think works really wonderfully. It is going to be a body that's populated, majority of which, the population will be students, and the students are largely selected by Gavin and Alfonso. Then there are other university representatives there who are there because they have certain expertise and insights, and certainly that needs to be represented in the deliberation. But I offer that long explanation as an example of the kind of dialogue that I think we always need to be engaged in. The administration needs to be earnest and energetic in the way that it engages you in conversations about things that are important to you, and in the process perhaps gets to communicate some things to you about what's important to it. And in the process of sharing that information, a dialogue occurs that produces some outcomes that are better than either you could do on your own or the administration could do on its own. So I hope that we get to continue that kind of effort in a variety of ways. I feel like, at least from my perspective, we're making real headway in that regard. I can tell you that my colleagues in student affairs tell me daily about communications they're having with UPUA or representatives of UPUA about specific areas of concern that are those administrators' responsibilities. And I'm encouraging them, and not having to encourage them too hard, because I think they're pretty much there. They want to be collaborative with you. They want to work constructively with you, see what we can produce that might be different from the way things have been, and we can find new models for pursuing a different new history at Penn State, so that the people who succeed you sometime from now don't have to talk about the history, the culture of relationships between student government and the administrators of Penn State being negative, but instead can cite Penn State as both being the best in terms of the student government and even also having the best relationships and meaningful student participation in institutional decision making in every imaginable, appropriate way. So that's my very basic ambition, and I think that we're making some headway that way. If you don't think we are, then I'd love to know in what ways we're not. I'd love to hear some suggestions from you about things that we could do differently. We're about to start a strategic planning process in student affairs that I hope you will be interested in. It is going to be a collaborative venture that involves lots of student representation. I want student leadership in the smaller components of the strategic planning process, along with administrative representation. Then we're going to invite a lot of representatives from across the other constituencies of the university that are outside of student affairs or outside of student government to also participate in that. But that will be a relatively condensed process that we want to finish by the 1st of May. And I hope that you guys are very, very much involved in all that. I'm planning a luncheon where I'd like for the President's Council members and some other administrators to join me in conversations, little roundtable conversations with representatives from UPUA, GSA, CCSG, the usual suspects. If we could get 12 or 14 roundtables with about 8 each, talking basically about the relationship between the administration and student leadership, how best to improve that, what the issues are that remain. It's a very informal, unscientific kind of approach, but it helps to start building those kinds of relationships and that dialogue that I'm talking about. Gavin and George Corey and Alfonso Mendoza were good enough to attend a President's Council meeting. If you don't know what the President's Council is, that's presidents and your senior leadership at the university, about 18 members, I think. And these three student leaders came to make a presentation, led the agenda at one of the President's Council meetings. And I thought that also was a constructive opportunity for the student leadership to tell the senior administrators what's important to them, what initiatives they're pursuing, what their ambitions are. So again, sort of start to build connections there, build bridges of communication that can only advance all of our collective ambitions together. So I could go on with a lot of examples like that. Megan is one who knows that with regard to sweatshop issues, I think there's been, in fits and starts, admittedly, but there's been an earnest effort on both sides of that issue to try to engage in more dialogue than we've had in the past. And it's incremental progress, I think, at least. There's more communication going back and forth with regard to that issue. And that, from my perspective at least, is much better than where doors are shut, communication isn't happening, we're not hearing the differences of opinion the way that we should, and we're not engaging in that collective ambition for some common good. So, that said, I'd love to hear any questions or comments that you have for me this evening, and I thank you for inviting me here. I'd love to be invited back as often as I can.
Representative Karasik.
Thanks, President Sims. Thank you for joining us. I just wanted to ask you to speak about legal services a little bit. With what happened this past Friday at Student Activity Fee Board. I know at Indiana you had a very substantial legal service, a very successful legal service. We learned about that at ABTS. And other schools have that as well. And I know that's something that you and Gavin have worked together to try to implement with Student Activity Fee Board's decision. Where do we move from here?
Well, I can tell you that all I have from the Student Activity Fee Board is basically some informal communication. And I've certainly heard from Gavin what happened, I've heard from others what happened. My expectation, just so you understand the process, is that I am at some point, relatively soon, going to get a formal report from the Student Activity Fee Board. I wanted it to engage in a fairly robust process of evaluating this whole set of issues, and there are many that relate to the activity fee. I am pleased by what I've heard, at least, which is that with regard to funding, some stable, ongoing funding for student government, both UA and GSA at least, that seems to be a recommendation that's going to be advanced. My understanding is what Gavin told you, and what you read perhaps in other places, that a recommendation will be forthcoming that says there's no support or there's not a majority of representation from the Activity Fee Board supporting an allocation of activity fee funding for the support of the student labor services. This, as you know better than I do, was one of Gavin's initial primary ambitions to achieve a student legal service. And I think that, as you know, a lot of other big Ten schools, comparable institutions, already have this kind of service. I was happy that Student Affairs could work with you, provide support for the landlord-tenant mediation program, and I think it's great that's started. I can tell you that from my experience, both as a lawyer and working closely with Student Legal Service at Indiana, which is an operation that had at one point 5 full-time attorneys, now has 4 full-time attorneys, and then about 25 law school interns, that really if you're going to address in any meaningful way landlord-tenant issues, you're going to have to do it in the end probably through legal means that are different from the mediation program. So I was hopeful for that reason and a lot of other reasons that we could get the student legal services going. What I understand is that, as has been explained, the concern was not with the representation on the activity fee board that comes from University Park, but rather the concern came from the Commonwealth campuses. Now, I need to dig a little more deeply to find out exactly what that concern is, but I think that the expectation was that this would be a segregated fee in the sense that the Commonwealth campuses students would not be paying for a legal service at University Park. but they still had concerns because this arrangement, which would have at least a full-time staff attorney working there, would require a salary for a position that is ongoing. No one's going to take this kind of job if they don't have some promise of stability in the position. That apparently is a violation of the stated policies with regard to use of activity fee money. And if that's the concern, then I'd like to find a way to address that if at all possible. But I can't really answer a whole lot of questions in terms of specificity, what my response is going to be to any recommendations that are forthcoming. I'm eager to see them. I still share the ambition with Gavin. I've worked with Dean McConaughey in the law school to ensure that they have suitable support for this. It's really the reason it would work here now is because of the presence of the law school and the availability of interns who can do a heavy portion of the work of the legal service. So the law school's participation in this was critical. Dean McConaughey is supportive. But we don't have the resources otherwise. You probably heard financial circumstances of the institution are not great. So a new source of funding, I had hoped, would be the source of funding. I can tell you for what it's worth that at Indiana University, I'm not sure what they're paying exactly now, but it's probably about $10, $11 a semester in the activity fee to support an organization that the funding then for that thing is about $750,000 a year for their student legal service. But that's a service that's existed for 39 years, so it has a history that we don't have here. Does that respond to the question?
Thank you.
President Slauson.
Phil Slauson, College of Ag. The current practices the university is using to try to eliminate the Crow problem on campus obviously is not working. How are they moving forward with that?
The Crow problem. I admit to you, there are many things I know nothing about. This is one. The Crow problem is not my expertise, but I'm going to get to the bottom of the Crow problem and get back to you about the Crow problem. Mr. Sluicer, I will send you a message about the Crow problem. All right? I know that they're trying to get rid of the crows. And it's not working. Right. So I'll find out what's going on.
Other questions? Representative Miller?
I was just wondering, because you mentioned the legal services, the student affairs money just isn't there right now. Do you guys know a priority list of certain cuts that student affairs might have to make because of the budget appropriations now?
Well, that's a good question. You know, we've gone through an experience this year where you probably know that the Commonwealth has asked for money back in effect. And so we've had some reversions. About 6% of our funding, everybody's funding, has been reverted to the state. That can be done with cash, basically. It was just this year we had to give back the money. But the governor's proposal, I haven't seen the details, but I think the governor's proposal today, which is really sort of the beginning of the conversation. In the end, this is legislation that's going to have to be issued. We have months of conversation about where things go, and things could get worse. And so what has happened is the governor has said that the 6% reversion that Penn State experienced this year will be permanent, a permanent 6% reduction, and that is about $21 million, I think. So student affairs, I think that's close to $155,000, $160,000 of funding that we would be losing, and we have to sit down and talk about what our priorities are going to be and how we can preserve basic services and staff and all that and still do what we need to do without compromising anything too much. I certainly hope we can do that, but what I'm mostly hoping is that the news out of Harrisburg doesn't get worse. Because if it does, then the reversion is going to be greater, and this is a reversion that's on top of what's called recycling. Anybody know what recycling is here at Penn State? Basically, units have been, most units, not all, have been giving money back each year, a certain percentage of funding that they have available to them. And I think that percentage is going to increase this year. So we're suffering more than just a 6% cut in effect. And it's very tough because the recycling has been going on for about 17 years, Andrew, is that reasonable? Yeah. And that has caused a lot of good conversation, I think, about being efficient and what are your priorities. But after a while, when you get to 17 years of that kind of recycling, it's more than just efficiency. You start to cut into bone, and that's when students are disadvantaged somewhat.
Ruth, yeah, just quickly, one more question. Mr. Nutt.
Moving forward, what changes can students expect to see because of the financial crisis impacting our school?
Good question. It depends again on how deep the cut is in the end from the Commonwealth. Back in October, the president announced to the board what his intention was for the forthcoming budget. We were talking in general terms about a 5.5–6% tuition increase. The expectation is that if the news out of Harrisburg doesn't get any worse than what the governor's plan was today, we will probably be able to move forward with that arrangement. We won't have to increase tuition more than that. That still is a hefty increase, honestly, because Penn State's tuition is already high, and so there's a real intention to try to do all we can to keep tuition low. I think that if the news gets worse out of Harrisburg, I think that recycling I talked about, where we're sort of all the units are having to give some money back, carve out of themselves some of the savings is necessary, that recycling money may go up. The consequence to students is that some services and programs that benefit students now may be reduced or limited in some way. That's not an advantage. This is all happening at a time when Penn State's University Park's enrollment, all the campuses enrollment, seems to be on the rise, and we've achieved capacity and then some, I think, at University Park. So a lot of operations are stressed to try to provide not just service, but the kind of quality service that we expect of ourselves to our students when the numbers are that much greater. But at some point, if the news gets bad out of Harrisburg, then I think we reopen the conversation about what should the tuition increase be. Is 5.5–6% going to get it done? Or do we have to raise it 7% or 8% or whatever it is? So that's something that has a profound impact on students, and the initiative that Gavin and George Gorey have announced today is a response to those concerns, because the idea that the state might find funding, I understand that this arrangement the governor is proposing assumes that the legislature would legalize certain gambling that I think is now not legal in the state. But if that happened, that the benefit from those hundreds of millions of dollars would flow to all students in institutions of higher learning in Pennsylvania, public institutions, except Penn State, Pitt, Temple, and Lincoln. That's something that very directly affects all of you, other students at University Park, and in a more significant way, I think, honestly, Commonwealth campuses, because if you look at the economics, the numbers of the Commonwealth campuses, I think the average family income of Commonwealth campuses tends to be lower. There's greater need there. Those campuses are in a real fight in many instances with schools in the surrounding area, and if those schools in the surrounding area are benefiting from their students getting these grants, this aid that isn't flowing to the Penn State campuses, that's going to have a negative impact, perhaps a profound negative impact on their enrollments. So all of these issues have very direct effect on Penn State students, and I hope that you can help us educate students about these impacts, and let them make choices about how engaged they want to be in the issue, and invite their engagement the way Gavin and George are, and that you can demonstrate these are impacts that you're not going to just sit idly by and let happen. I think that if you do otherwise, you can invite other kinds of actions from Harrisburg that might not be sympathetic to the needs of the students who are here to be part of the future.
Okay, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving on to old business, none. New business, we have a lot of new business. I'm just going to kind of make the suggestion that we postpone the confirmation of ARSH liaison, Kayla McPherson, until the end. She has something going on right now. She will be back So if there are no objections to that, could we put that bullet at the end of new business? Are there any objections? No? Okay, we're gonna move that to the end of new business. So moving to the resignation of Brian Poland. I'm gonna have the chair speak on that.
Obviously, Mr. Poland's up for a nomination for a directorship position on the executive board. And the Constitution requires you can't serve on two entities unless you have a special permission from the Board of Arbitration. So with that, it's kind of an automatic resignation. I'm sorry to see Mr. Poland go, but he's going on to bigger, better things under Gavin, not the Assembly, and I look forward to seeing a replacement from his Creek Council.
Are there any objections to accepting his resignation? Okay, saying none. Moving on to the confirmation of vacant assembly representative seats. Technically, we are supposed to do this by roll call. We can do it by hand if there are no objections when we actually go into voting on this. Or would you like it to remain as a roll call vote for those three positions? Okay, are there any objections to voting by hand when we get to the voting portion of each of these? Any objections? Okay, saying none. Moving to first, Haley McLaren for the position of off-campus representative. So come to the mic and then just tell us about yourself, why you're going to fill this position, etc. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Haley McClurden and I am a sophomore in architectural engineering. After 3 semesters as an outsider at UPUA, I couldn't feel more privileged to be standing in front of all of you tonight, nor be so honored to have been nominated to join you. As evident by this truly breakthrough fall semester, UPUA has clearly established itself as a powerful and committing organization with a faithful agenda and the true voice of the Penn State student community. Reading headline after headline of progressions and accomplishments over the months, I stood amazed at the determination and dedication of such extensive undertakings. With both the online book exchange and tenant landlord mediation service having come to fruition, as well as great strides in the graduate legal services, I have come to appreciate that UPUA not only proposes big ideas, but consistently plans to execute them. Such an incredibly influential organization, so fully committed to its students, is certainly something to be proud of. Perhaps most promising of all, though, is the great faith in this organization is obviously shared by both the student body and administration. With the increased funding and continued approval for expansion, it seems that everyone has had the same confidence that you had from the start. That being said, I assume it's quite obvious why I'm here tonight, and why I have such a great desire to be part of the university, University Park Undergraduate Association. Rather than sitting in class reading those inspiring articles, I want to be the reason they're published in the first place. I want to stop complaining about the rising cost of tuition and join in the effort to stop it. I am both ready and willing to take on my responsibility as a member of this school, this community, and the place that it has become my home. After serving as the Deputy Executive Director of State Bar Old State, I have already begun to understand the way our university works and gain insights into the methods of communication and collaboration among parties that turn an idea into a reality. What I may lack in experience, though, I make up for in passion, and I look forward to building greatly upon this foundation. I realize the great commitment it takes to truly contribute to such an aspiring assembly and welcome the prospect. As I have seen from the fruits of your labors, the end is well worth the means. I've come to realize that 4 years here is much more than a degree. Penn State will forever be a part of me, and for that, I hope to leave my mark as well. I look forward to serving our student body and being part of the reason we leave here with more than just a diploma. UPUA has earned an incredible reputation for effective development, and I would be honored to take part in upholding this tradition.
Thank you. So at this time, can I just stand for questions? We have 5 minutes for questioning. Are there any questions for Haley? Representative Okelberg?
Hi, I would like for you to talk a little bit more about your involvement in the suite.
Other questions? Representative Slusser?
Can you tell us a little bit what you did with the sustainable community in Jamaica?
Yeah, sure. I actually was answering Vale's question about that. It was part of a freshman class that I took. It was e-design. I'm sure if there's any engineers involved in it. So our project this semester was to design a sustainable orphanage in Jamaica. So the problem was that there was no way to get energy or water or any lines of power out to the site where this orphanage was needed. So basically, we were just brainstorming to find an answer to the problem.
Other questions? Representative Moy?
I was wondering if you're going to remain involved with that. And then you plan to take over the technical work?
No, I mean, as much as I would like to, I'm not in a position right now where I have enough experience or knowledge to be in that position. So I wouldn't be eligible for that role, I don't think. But I definitely will remain involved.
Representative Lombard?
How did you hear about the position?
I think I heard about the position from Hillary Creek at first, actually.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move right on to Justin Fish for freshman. Same thing, you have 5 minutes to give your spiel, and then we'll give 5 minutes for questioning. Okay.
Alright, how's everybody doing tonight? As Valerie said, my name's Justin Fish. A little under the weather, so sorry I can't talk too well tonight. I'm a freshman, labor relations, political science, and a minor in military science. I am here on a contract with the Army. Within the Army, I am a member of the cadet recruiting team. We are the face of the Army. You'll see us around rope climbing walls that we have to climb all the time and do the cool stuff that we like to do. I'm a member of the Lions Guard. We carry the flag out during the football games, and we guard the line during homecoming. Let's see what I'm starting. Last semester, I was the Deputy Director for Business and Marketing for the UPUA, and looking forward to working with everybody in the future. One main reason why I'm here is that I believe in my personality will fit this position. I know for the ones who do know me, I'm the kind of person who's not going to just sit there and not say anything when I have something to say. I would like to be part of the new things that the UPUA is working upon. I know over the last 2 years there's been a great increase in things that this group has done, and I know as leadership gets older and moves on with their life, I'd like to be part of the tradition that they've carried on.
All right, questions? Representative Slusser?
Just wondering, you just stated the role. Were you ever in the scouting program?
Boy Scouts? Nah, I never did Boy Scouts. Well, I'm big in the outdoors though. I love to hunt, fish, all, you name it, camp. I'm there.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Dustin Dove for off-campus. Same deal.
Hi everyone, my name is Dustin Dove. I am up for the position of off-campus representative. I'm a junior. I'm majoring in secondary education, social studies. How I really came to this position is I've always had a deep interest in legislation and deliberation, debate on issues. I really love politics. I'm going to be a social studies teacher, so that's kind of a good thing for that. I've had experience campaigning the past year with other elections. I worked for several different campaigns with the College Democrats as well. And I feel like my experience campaigning will really help me in this position, so I can campaign on behalf of students here at Penn State. Several of the things that I think UPUA has done in the past semester I'm really interested in, just like the
the tenant landlord deliberation board, I think it's called. I think I would really be interested in working with that, helping to set that up. Also, just a couple other things, just talking to people around campus. I know one thing I might propose would be a different sort of ride board that we could propose within UQA, working with other organizations. And also, I'd love to strengthen the presence of UQA on campus. I know a lot of students know UQA, the acronym. I don't think a lot of students know exactly what UQA does, and I really love to promote UQA to the students and show them that we, as a body, actually do work here on campus and promote their interests.
Okay. Questions? Representative Slusser.
So it sort of sounds you want to, later when, if you grow up, you want to be a history teacher?
Yes.
Any specific part of history?
I really like U.S. history, political history, I like everything. I like civics and law, government.
Representative Knock.
How do you become aware of this vacancy?
Actually, through the College Democrats, through Sean Malloy, talking to him and saying, look, they told me about the decision, and it was something I've been interested in a while, and I figured why not go for it now while I have the experience.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, I'm going to ask the three of you to leave. We're going to have a discussion about each of you separately and vote on each of you separately. And then we will bring you back in when we're done. Thank you, Nicole. Congratulations, all three of you were approved by the Assembly. Are you good now? Okay, so if you want to come sit up here, Deb's going to have to swear you in first, so all three of you come up here, and he's going to read the oath of office.
Alright, just repeat it after me. I promise to faithfully uphold the Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association and to defend the rights of each individual student while working toward the betterment of student life. I shall perform to the best of my ability the responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me by the University Park Undergraduate Student Body through virtue of the office which I hold. Congratulations.
You all can sit up here with the rest of the Assembly now and enter into discussion. Let me get you guys some name placards. All right, moving on to confirmation of executive board. Same format. We're going to begin with Justin for Director of Finance, aka Treasurer. So 5 minutes.
Thank you, Valerie. I still get nervous every time I have to speak in public, so just bear with me. I know it's a long night for everybody, so I'm just going to make this as brief as possible. It'll probably be less than 5 minutes. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, why I want to be Treasurer / Director of Finances, which I'm looking at the agenda is the official title for this role, and then tell you why I'm qualified. So I know this speech should come from my heart, but right now my heart's written down on this piece of paper, so I'm just going to read from this. Here at Penn State, what I'm involved in, I'm a brother at PCT Phi Chi Theta, which is a professional business fraternity. Currently serve as the corporate relations chair here. I've been involved in Thon Rules and Regulations Committee, as well as some Smeal College of Business programs, including Wall Street Boot Camp. When I first heard about this opportunity to be treasurer, I didn't think of it just as another way to get involved. That's really not the right way to look at something. I saw this as an opportunity to really make a significant contribution to an organization that's run by students, that's for students. Obviously, the position is closely aligned with my major, which makes it very attractive. But overall, I would be helping to manage the finances for the central student government here at Penn State, which brings with it a great sense of achievement. If I had to pick one trait or phrase which really differentiates myself, I would say that I'm a very quick learner and that I can easily adapt to change. Obviously, I'm a new face here at UPUA, so I do lack a degree of experience. But quite honestly, much of what I have to know about the history of UPUA, the background, the inner workings would be learned quite simply by attending the meetings if I was afforded this opportunity. I truly believe that what I lack in experience, I make up for in motivation, and determination, and perseverance. I've had past experiences in law offices and banks where I was given projects that were new to me, and I had no prior experience with them. But I was still expected to perform the job at an appropriate level, and my ability to learn quickly and to adapt to change really helped me succeed in those positions, and I greatly exceeded the performance expectations required. This position is a new one, but to the same degree. Much of the job responsibilities are structured and procedural, so I think that learning the job will be pretty straightforward. I'm transitioning from a well-organized predecessor, Matt Sheroff, who I know very closely and who I've worked with prior to him leaving to go abroad to London. He acquainted me with ASA, he took me around the office to get a closer look at the things that he did. I've had the opportunity to sit one-on-one with Gavin to really discuss what he expects from me from this position. Last Friday I attended the student activity fee board meeting to really just expand my awareness and knowledge to the nth degree. I've also had a chance to look at this year's showcase budget, and I believe that my organizational skills, attention to detail, and the fact that I'm very conscientious will really help me in managing the budget for this year. So that's really all I have, so if you guys have any questions.
Okay, questions? President Knock.
I'm sorry? This is actually a new position for me, so I've never had the opportunity to be treasurer of any organization. My largest budget would probably be my own budget.
Representative Lohner.
I know you just said you don't have experience being treasurer, but have you had any experience with ASA or any of the credit union branches on campus?
Before Matt left to go abroad to London, he actually took me around to the ASA office and really gave me a really detailed explanation of all the processes involved as far as check requests, purchase orders, transfer requests. So I feel pretty comfortable with that and that aspect. This past summer, I worked in a bank. I was essentially a teller, which is kind of all personal finance. I'm dealing with that.
Other questions? Mr. Cavello?
Obviously, you would be the treasurer for the student government, and we do deal with reasonably large sums of money compared to those student organizations. But we also have a lot of rules regarding how money can be spent, the process in which money can be spent. And as treasurer, you're the chief officer, which has to make sure that money's being appropriated and spent in accordance to the will of the association rules. Are you prepared to follow the rules, legislation, to the letter, and also stand up to exec board members, the president, myself, and others if indeed you feel that there's a violation in the rules and procedure in which money is allocated?
I do.
Other questions? Representative Slesser? We're not in debate. Any other questions? Thank you for participating though. Representative Shermansky.
I just want to ask one question. What trait about yourself do you think makes you stand out from anybody else who might be qualified to be treasurer of such a large organization and such a huge budget?
I kind of briefly touched on it in my speech, but it's really my motivation, my dedication, my aspiration to be world-class in anything I do. I'm a pretty quick learner, and I would say intelligence. That's different from being smart. Obviously, if you're smart, I can tell you I can tell you any world, give me a country, I can tell you the capital, that's smart. But intelligence is, you give me a project, you give me, even if I'm way over my head, you give me a couple cracks with that project, and I'm going to figure it out. So I think that's a good quality to have.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to Director of Interfraternity Council and Panhellenic Council of Greek Life, Chris Swell. So just the same, 5 minutes.
All right, well, hello there. Thanks for having me tonight. Just my background, Chris Caswell. I am a junior majoring in energy business and finance. I'm from Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. That's the mushroom capital of the world. I'm a 2006 graduate of Unionville High School. Most recently, I served as president of my fraternity, Delta Kappa Epsilon, or DEEC. We're a relatively newer chapter here at Penn State. Some background on DEEC, notable alumni from other chapters. Joe Paterno was a DEEC alum. We have 5 U.S. presidents. Our chapter here has seen tremendous growth over the past couple of years. We've tripled in size, moving to a new house next year. I think in large part to my leadership there. Roughly 1 out of 5 students here at University Park is a member of a Greek organization. That being said, Greek life is truly fundamental to student life. Greeks, I would say, are generally very spirited, involved students, and consequently, I think it's important to reach out to this community to further solidify UPUA's position as a strong, unified voice of Penn State students. Why me for this position in particular? I'd really love to serve in this capacity along with Brian Poland as a co-director. I'm motivated, I'm engaged, I'm ready to serve. My prior leadership experiences as president of my organization have given me significant exposure to the unique issues pertaining to Greek organizations, particularly risk management, chapter management, housing, finances. In terms of action items, things that I intend to act on immediately if I am given your confirmation. I want to reach out to all the organization presidents, see what kinds of issues they'd like to bring to the table here in this body. I would like to make elections for the representatives from the Greek councils here directly elected. For example, during the election process, this April 1st, Greek students would actually go and log in, and if they were a member of an IFC fraternity, they would, be able to vote for the representative from the Interfraternity Council, the member that actually sits here on the assembly. And lastly, I think that we should take some action in speaking up against the university administration's actions against the student organization formerly known as Phi Delta Theta. I think beyond, just encroaching on student rights and students' organizational rights, fraternity houses are a legitimate housing option. Such a building, a structure, houses 50 students, and when we have students in supplemental housing, it's kind of hard to say like let's knock a building down that can provide beds and a place to eat and everything. So anyway, I thank you for your time tonight. Hopefully you guys will confirm me and we get started working here. So any questions?
Representative Miller.
Hi, just curious, how are you planning on representing the Panhellenic Council as
As
members of
a member of an fraternity council, I plan on going to Panhellenic Council, meeting with Panhellenic presidents, and working with the organizations, and mainly as an action item, right now, at least having their representatives be directly elected.
Representative Slessor?
I was the former president of Delta Theta City fraternity. We got the chapter of excellence award last year. With us in Acacia. Right now, Acacia is at all. What are you going to do to try to combat the negative connotation that some actions of fraternities bring the student body into the surrounding community?
Well, I think we definitely need to work on highlighting the positives through various channels, whether it be our media resources or through further Greek representation in bodies such as these. I think that a lot of the good that Greek organizations do is overlooked. And additionally, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what Greek organizations are. And it's really unfortunate that the poor decisions of a few, really reflect negatively on the whole community. But I think we just need to keep, promoting the good things we do, and make sure we have, good public relations in that sense.
Representative Mance, sorry.
Chris, more specifically, what do you see your relation to be with Peter Science President and some other
I kind of view myself, if confirmed, as a liaison between the IFC leaders and this body, and serving as an advisor to the leadership of this body.
Representative Knock.
Specifically, what can you do to improve Greek life specifically?
I think recruitment is key, to be honest. The greatest asset that Greek life needs to be improved is increased membership and more specifically there, increased quality of membership. Our organizations are entirely, what our members make of them and how our members choose to, live the values of the Greek organizations. So really, we need to hit recruitment hard and focus on recruitment in order to improve Greek life overall.
Zinger?
You mentioned working with the leaders in Greek life. You mentioned both the exec boards and the chapters. So I was wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail, your plans specifically for the executive boards of Panhellenic and IFC versus the presidents, and then if you've had any experience with the executive boards this year thus far.
I've met with Luke Pierce frequently. I have not yet met with the executive board of the Panhellenic Council, to be honest. However, that was the next step here after I confirmed. I didn't want to really jump the gun and do that before I was officially in the role. But beyond the executive boards, the chapter presidents, I think is a very important step to take to really get to know the issues that are most important to them.
Representative Zinger?
As you said that you haven't met with Panhellenic Council and exec yet, so what is your working knowledge of Panhellenic? What do you think are the greatest issues facing Panhellenic right now? You mentioned briefly recruitment with IFC, but as far as Panhellenic goes.
I don't want to make anything up. I mean, I will serve to the best of my ability and get to intimately know those issues, but I am more familiar with the IFC issues.
Any other questions? I just have a question. What role did you play in your chapter, in your house?
When I first joined on, I was our recruitment chair, and most recently I served as president.
Okay. Representative Zinger, one more?
As one of the smaller chapters on campus, I'm not sure how many members you have now, but traditionally you have one of the smaller chapters on campus.
Correct.
How do you plan on working with a larger chapter like Acacia right now, that has upwards of 80 to 100 people in it?
Well, I think that one of the greatest assets of or greatest characteristics of our Greek community is its diversity. We do have something for everyone in the Greek community. We're not necessarily seeking to be like Acacia, and Acacia isn't seeking to be like us. That being said, we do have similar issues, overall. And I think that even coming from a smaller organization, I still have had exposure through President's Council to the issues that are more directly faced by the larger houses.
Representative Slessor?
How many brothers do you have?
Point of order. We are
Out of time.
we are-
Yeah, that's all. I'm sorry.
34.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and moving on to Director of National Panhellenic Council and Multicultural Greek Life, Brian Pollack. Mr. Pollack. You know the deal.
Hello everyone, my name is Brian Pullen. I just started some things I'm just going to say, something to say. I am seeking the Director of Greek Life position for the MGC and the MPHC council. I've had the privilege to serve in UPUA since its first session in its infancy and watching its growth. There have been great strides made to effectively represent the entire student body. I believe this position is important because, as Chris said, the Greeks here have a huge impact and a huge influence on the community. A little bit about me. I've worked within my council. I've been a hard worker within my council, kind of like an unsung hero kind of thing. I served as chapter delegate. I served as vice chair. I served as chapter president most recently. That's why I believe that I'll be the best to advise the executive board and Gavin with matters in regards to MPHC. MGC and MPHC are ran pretty much alike, so I believe I can do the same thing. Questions?
Any questions? Representative Warner?
Can you envision any way or do you have any plans about how to fill the seat that you just vacated?
Yes, there are works within the council to have the seat filled immediately. We have 2 candidates as of right now, and the next year we'll probably meet next Tuesday.
Who are those candidates?
Kendall Brown and Bree, I don't know the mess up her name. She's in Delta City Data. Kendall Brown is in Friday, so.
Other questions? Representative Vance?
Hi, Brian. As you may already be aware of, I sit on a board right now that kind of deals with lots of issues regarding events on campus. You're aware of it. Do you have any specific ideas of who improve these events or any particular outlets that are all about?
Well, at the last President's Council on Tuesday, we've been talking in the assembly, and we feel that it would be a good idea to have like hired staff from Penn State to work out social events, to hopefully decrease risk at parties and things like that.
Other questions? Have you talked to MGC about this?
I emailed Jana Chang. She hasn't been ready to meet yet.
Okay. So you made the effort though?
Yes.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, so 3 of you, just like last time, we're going to discuss you individually, and then we're going to vote on you individually. So I'm going to ask you to please leave the room. And our lovely Director of Religious Affairs will let you know when you can come back in. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, so just like last time, we're going to swear you guys in. Take the oath of office, so come to the front, please, 3 of you. You were confirmed by the Assembly, that's why we clapped. Congratulations. I'll do it.
Phonetic breaks in the
Do not pause after practicing.
I got it, thank you. I promise to faithfully uphold
I promise to faithfully uphold
the Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association
the Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association
and to defend the rights of each student
and to defend the rights of each student
while working toward the betterment of student life.
while working toward the betterment of student life.
I shall perform
I shall perform
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
the responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me by
the responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me by
the University Park Undergraduate Student Body
the University Park Undergraduate Student Body
through virtue of the office which I hold.
through virtue of the office which I hold.
Congratulations.
Yeah, if you all want to, you can take your seats at the executive board to your left. You can scooch. Okay. Moving on to to confirmation of elections commission. Same deal. All right. Representative Malloy. Okay, so what kind of format do you want? It's easier if we just keep with the same flow. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to begin with the head commissioner, Mr. Alex Goodstein. Same deal, 5 minutes, and then 5 for questioning. Head.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces and also some new ones here. My name is Alex Goodstein, and I am your nominee for Head Elections Commissioner. A little bit about me. I am a senior in Information Sciences and Technology. My leadership background here at Penn State, I was a former member of USG. I served as a member of UPOA in the Assembly last year. I was a member of last year's Elections Commission. Currently, right now, I am a member of UPAC and also a member of the IST Student Government. You may ask, why do I want to do this again? Even though I am no longer actually a member of the UPOA Assembly, I still would like to see UPOA succeed. UPOA and student government here at Penn State University Park has come a long way since I was a freshman. 2 years ago, student government here was a disaster. It's now actually born to be something that seems to be pretty successful. I would like to continue to see it that way, and I feel the best way that I can do that right now is by serving as a head elections commissioner. That's pretty much all I have to say right now, so I would stand up for question.
Questions? So just so everyone's aware, because you served on the Elections Commission last year, you were unable to fill a representative position this year. So my question is, would you have filled a representative position had you been eligible?
Yes, I actually would have. I'll admit the reason I actually did not run again for a representative position was I had burnt out at the end of last spring. After making some changes in my life, course schedule, all sorts of stuff like that, I found time again and found myself being quite bored, but since I was technically barred from rejoining UPOA, I had to join something else.
Right. Questions? This is the head election commissioner, Representative Malloy.
Can you talk about what you use on being as head elections commissioner and also different
Okay, I'll do it in reverse actually. My commitment to UPAC is very, very basic. I go to the meetings on Tuesday nights. I serve an office hour on Friday afternoons. That's pretty much my commitment to UPAC. It's a very simple commitment. I'm also going to be working with them towards their elections as well. So the ability to work with both elections at the same time, I make things very easy and smooth between different organizations. Sorry, what was the other question again? Sorry. I would like to see this year's election be more successful than last year's. I thought there was a lot that was done very well last year, and I thought there were a lot of things that were kind of a mishap last year. I would like to see the publicity done a lot better and oversee that. There's a lot that I would like to do with trying to get more candidates out there, and with the help of the rest of the commission, I feel I should be able to do that. A lot of the other things that I really did not like last year were arguments over fair market value and such. Depending on how the elections code turns out, either the commission will be deciding exactly how that's going to run, or the commission is going to be basically highlighting and saying, this is how you tell what a fair market value is. So hopefully we can go from there. As we go through the campaign period, if we see other changes, then hopefully we'll be able to carry them out.
Other questions? Okay. Did you have a question? Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on to Deputy Commissioner for Candidacy, Jasmine.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Rusham. I'm a freshman in the College of Communications, majoring in PR. Being nominated for the position of Commissioner for Candidacy, I had many qualifications that I feel would be strong to this experience, but my strongest would be organizing and implementing. These are two qualities I have practiced while being part of the MLK Commemoration Board this past fall, being mock trial IM fall captain, and recently helped organize the Barack Obama inauguration celebration in the Hub, and also my internship at Comcast for the last 2 years in public affairs. My plans for this position will be doing everything that is inscribed in the elections code for my position specifically, and also the laws for all commissioners. The best way I can do this is by familiarizing myself with the elections code like I have already begun. I feel as though if I work well with this team, we can make this a successful commission and election this year.
Representative Szymanski.
You said you're a freshman.
Yes.
So, had you not decided to become a commissioner, would you have actually ran for a position in UPUA?
I don't think I'm qualified yet. I think this would be like the first step to begin that kind of experience I need in student government.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to Deputy Commissioner for Campaigning, Mr. Richard Szymanski.
Hi everybody, my name is Richard Szymanski Jr. and I really don't feel I have to tell you a lot about myself. Everybody here knows so much about me. I'm the liberal arts representative and the president. Since freshman year in Penn State Hazelton, I've been a part of student politics. It's just a part of my life, and since I cannot run anymore, I feel this is a fitting end for myself and my career as a student politician. I know the rules inside and out. I've ran twice. A big thing about me is I don't take excuses. You mess up on this campaign, you will be cut. Yeah. Yeah, that's that. So, if you have any questions for me, go right ahead.
Question. Representative Mance.
Richard, as I know from knowing you personally, some of the conversations we've had, you're very interested in politics and going about, I guess, candidates and campaigns, both federal and state level. How do you feel with such experience and your knowledge that translate up to you?
Seeing as though they're a lot different than how we go about electing our representatives, not really much. But like I said, since I've ran these campaigns and I've ran several other different types of campaigns, I think that helps me more than anything else. And the fact that, like I said, I've ran before and I just know the system inside and out.
Mr. Cavallo.
Under the duties of the election code for a commissioner for campaigning, which you are up for, it says to educate all candidates on bylaws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do you plan to effectively do this so that those running for office know not only the rules of the actual election process, but the rules of the entity within UPUA they're getting involved in and are able then to better serve?
Well, as of right now, the commission itself has set up dates when we're going to present our information to the new candidates, people running and all that. I will make my presentation. I'll make sure that the rules are readily made available to each and every candidate. If they have any questions, they can come to me. If I tell them one thing, I will definitely tell it to the rest of the commission, just to let them know that that's how I'm interpreting the rules. If they feel that it's the wrong way, well, then I will accept the majority rule on that.
Representative Wallace.
If you were to relate yourself to one famous politician, who would be enough?
Oh, there are so many. I would say Bob Casey Sr., Bob Casey. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with my favorite governor, Bob Casey Sr. And why? The man ran for governor 4 times, okay? He ran right out of law school, lost, ran again in the 70s, lost, ran again in the early 80s, lost, ran again in the 90s, and introduced a very special campaigner known as James Carville. You know, it's just the never say die attitude. You fall down, pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and just improve from it. And that is a remarkable thing to do, I think.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to Deputy Commissioner for Election Publicity, Mr. Michael Pike.
Thanks very much. I am, I think not many of you probably have seen my face, so I do plan on using the majority of my 5 minutes just to tell you a little bit about who I am. So, my name is Michael Pike, and I'm a political science major. I first came to Penn State in the fall of 2004 and barely survived these halls. My first foray into student government came during sophomore year. I served as an executive vice president of South Halls Residents Association. Our meetings were sparsely attended, and that inhibited us from getting anything concrete done. I think student government largely is the last thing on students' minds. My junior year was spent largely out at Innovation Park, working on my political talk show called Present Tense. And I asked many of my guests who came on the show who were involved in government, how do we counter apathy on campus? And no answers seemed to satisfy me. This led me to write, direct, and produce a mockumentary about the state of affairs of UPUA. Some of the stars are in the room right now, actually. My goal is to give students a different look at student government in a creative way. I enlisted the help of 6 actors who made up different parts of the campaign team. The final product, however, was not consumed en masse by the campus, but we had a good time doing it. After my junior year, I made the decision to drive out to Las Vegas, Nevada, to intern for a relatively unknown politician with a funny name. After my summer internship ended, I was offered a job by the campaign and jumped at the opportunity. I spent a total of 15 months working on the best organized presidential campaign in American history. I worked in 8 different states for the campaign and organized alongside hundreds of fellow staffers and volunteers. For 3 weeks in March of 2008, I actually had the privilege of working here on campus for the campaign. The amazing students that I worked alongside of and faculty, we registered thousands of new voters. And I'm positive that every one of you was asked, are you registered to vote? I'm pretty sure. We tried to do our best. I heard many of the people that we brought into the process say that they felt empowered. And in turn, what they did was they used their skills that they learned about organizing to empower other students and other State College residents. Some of them even took the opportunity to take off from fall 2008, the semester, to work on various campaigns. As for me, I actually ended up working in the state up north, Michigan, for the general election. And on that bright night in November, millions of people's dream did come true. I got involved in Barack Obama's campaign because I was tired of hearing the refrain, young people don't care about politics. Young people won't vote. During my time in the South Halls, I saw issues not being able to be resolved because we didn't have enough people in a room. When I worked on the UPUA mockumentary, I witnessed student turnouts that were horrible for elections. With these experiences in mind, I never expected to find myself working on a campaign where a bunch of 20-somethings worked together to make history. That experience of traveling around the country and working here at Penn State taught me that there is so much hope for students in this country and here at our university. We can get it, and I will help to get tens of thousands of students to come out and vote for UPUA. And I'm going to help to recruit hundreds of students to get out and help to get out to vote for UPUA. Thanks, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Questions? Representative Colleen Smith?
Sure, yes, what was your last name? Miss Smith, okay, great. Sure, 3 things, Miss Smith. We need to get students interested and feel they have a voice in the process. So we would, what I'd like to do is recruit students to basically do student one-on-ones. And what this would basically be is we would sit down with students tomorrow, basically, and start asking them, what are the issues that you want to see your student government talk about? I think this is going to help us generate a lot of buzz on campus and begin momentum. I think that one of the problems of past elections is that the first time students would actually start thinking about voting was on election day. So you would have no momentum. But if we can create that momentum early on, get students engaged, I think that we have a great chance of getting a good turnout. So that's number 1, sitting down with students and talking with them. Second, for our generation, YouTube is essential. So we're going to utilize YouTube. All of the debates, all of the candidate sessions, and actually some of the interviews that we do with students, one-on-one, will be videotaped and put on the website. That's a suggestion. And that'll also help to build momentum because every so often they could go and check out these videos online. Thirdly, an idea that I had that I don't know if the Elections Commission, if the bylaws are passed, we can do, but early voting. I think that is something that could actually generate more votes. If we elongate the election into 3 days and have people vote, I think that could generate some votes. But that's something that's maybe future elections would be able to do.
Mr. Carvello.
Yes, one of the duties listed in the election code, old and potentially new, is to advertise the candidacy, in other words, the open position. One of the things more than voter turnout, which has been steadily increasing since you made that documentary, is the fact that we don't have a lot of contentious elections. We need more people to actually run so that they're competitive. What do you plan on doing to advertise that people can actually get involved by running the UQA as opposed to just getting people out to vote?
Sure. I'm just curious, out of a show of hands, how many people had a contested election? Okay, so, and of course, exactly. I think it is a problem. I think that first off, advertising, I know that I think Alex in the budget put things for putting it into the Collegian, other various things to advertise for it. But I think that a lot of it has to be done students to students. I think we've got to go to them and talk with them. And I'm prepared to recruit a lot of the people that I worked on the campaign with and other student organizations that are active on campus to talk with students and just explain to them in a very basic way how to run. Also allowing myself to be somebody that they can come to and ask if they have questions and answer them.
Representative Karasik.
In your interview with the ID committee, you talked about how you wanted to get the dates and other event coverage televised on various channels. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Before I actually went on the Obama campaign, I was the president-elect of Penn State Network Television, which basically had a few shows. I had a talk show, but I still have a good rapport with them. And I think one of the things that we could do is talk with them about actually filming these events, putting them on TV first off. I believe I don't know if it's channel 33 or 72, I'm not sure which one it is. But that is available to students to watch. Also, putting these on the web. The big thing with that, and I think the concern for everybody who knows film, is editing.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on to Deputy Commissioner for Information Technology, Mr. Jacob Budin. My apologies. Go ahead.
Fair enough. Good evening, Assembly. While I don't have a quite eloquent speech prepared for you, as I can't see behind you, a very good one-up for them by having the shortest speech. My name is Jacob Budin. I'm a junior double majoring in English and marketing. As you know, I'm here for information technology, which involves two major components: developing the website and interacting with student affairs to make sure the information technology is prepared for the day of elections. I worked with Atlas Thon overall, and with Roth to develop, design, and maintain their websites, as well as doing UQA elections. Last night, received nothing but compliments, and hope to do again so this year.
Questions? Representative Malloy? You don't have a question? Okay.
Last year you did this, and do you think there's any way you can do it last year, the process smoothly, or do you think things take on?
I think things were, for the most part, pretty solid. I don't think any of the candidates had any particular complaints. There's some issue with candidates wanting to update their platforms, and we had a policy of only, because they had to be edited by the sort of the primary commissioners, so they could only be updated once in order for it to be a smooth process. I don't know if that would want to be changed that year, but that would be sort of a policy decision beyond me.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And last you have Mr. Matthew Lockman for Deputy Commissioner for Administrative Advocacy. He has not made it back into the room, but you heard his introduction earlier. And you have
I
asked
can
him.
take any questions on this topic.
Okay. Mr. Garrison will stand for any questions. Are there any questions for Mr. Garrison? Okay, great, thank you. All right, so at this time, we're gonna have you all leave. We're gonna discuss you individually, vote on you individually, and we'll let you back into the room. Mr. Shermansky. Okay, not for your own,
He has a right to vote.
but you can vote on the others.
He has a right to vote for all.
For himself too?
Correct? Yeah, right.
Can you please shut the door? Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, all of you were approved. Okay, I know we said that we would move into confirmation of the ARSH liaison for the very end of new business, but she has been sitting here for quite a while. So if there are no objections, I'd like to do that at this time. That way she can, yeah. Is that all right? Well, we can do it if there are no objections. No objections? All right, great. So at this time, we're going to do confirmation of the ARSH liaison, Kayla McPherson, and you have 5 minutes to speak and then 5 minutes for questions.
Good evening, everyone. I know I've seen most of you a couple times sitting back here. I just want to introduce myself again. I am Kayla McPherson. I am the current ARSH president. A little bit about myself, I guess, because I haven't explained all that much to anybody. I started off in residence life government as the AVP for West Falls. My sophomore year, I became West Falls president. Last semester, I was the AVP for ARSH, and since Parker left, I've taken over as president. I am a triple major in international politics, medieval studies, and history with 3 minors in English, chemistry, and geography. So I do spend a lot of time in the classroom, and yeah. I guess I'm here because General Counsel, our General Counsel, went ahead and approved that until we officially elect a communications chair, I would be serving as in the ARSH liaison capacity to UPUA. The main reason I decided to go ahead and fill this temporarily is because we cannot have a breakdown of communications like what happened last semester, so strictly to avoid that. And also because the relationship that ARSH and UPUA have built and are continuing to build is extremely important to ARSH, and I'm sure it's extremely important to you. So I'll take your questions now. Yeah.
Questions? Representative Lohner.
What do you believe the length of the temporary?
I can't give you a timeline, but until we have somebody, I'll be here. Because it's a generally elected position from council, so council has to make the motion to go into elections should a position arise.
Representative Karasik.
Kayla, I just want to thank you for stepping up in addition to all the ARSH members that we've had, Alex, everybody else who's here. It's once you learn, as soon as you learn about what happened there, you set up involved in here. So I think we're all very appreciative to see ARSH here, and we're working to get our members here to be back to learning as well. Are you making great informal questions?
Yes, please.
Is that okay with you that I can answer?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Representative Mance.
As much as I am aware of this temporary position, on the phone, I know I'm curious to know where it's such a intensive academic workload. Are you able to that like get married?
No, not at all. I'm pretty good at time management. So I have meetings every night of the week. I just don't sleep, so not a big deal.
Further questions? Okay, thank you very much. All right, so go ahead and leave the room. Shut the door. Thank you. All right, further new business. We have the elections budget. I'd like to yield the floor to Mr. Goodstein if you have anything to say about it coming out at a later date or.
Well,
I'm just gonna say that the budget you have before you is pretty much a preliminary budget. I was informed of a few different changes. I also am aware that it doesn't actually hit the full amount of money that was allotted to the commission to work with. I hope by next Wednesday there will be a more completed budget with actual numbers that will actually reflect things as opposed to just kind of estimates and such. If anybody has any questions about what's listed there?
Yeah, I just have a question. You had $5,000 total dollars.
Correct.
To use, yeah.
5,000 to basic, whatever the commission wants to do. I think it was 2,000 towards some sort of celebration, and then 1,200 towards compensation.
Mr. Cairns?
Yeah, just looking at the transition dinner, that's something you guys might want to seriously cut back on to use for the purpose of elections.
Okay.
I just didn't feel like last year's was really worthwhile. I think it's important to have some type of event, but that's excessive. I think you guys could probably put it to better use, so feel free to do that.
I'll say I've heard mixed feelings about the transition dinner from several different people. Some people have told me that they really like the idea of the transition dinner. Other people have told me that they want to scale it back, like you've said. Other people have told me to get rid of it altogether. We're going to look into different things and see what we can do towards that.
I think we could just probably get, pizza in the office or something like that. To me, having $1,000 dinner is pretty excessive. So.
I do not think that's a good idea. President Malloy?
This is a question.
Yeah, questions.
Alright, so do you think that $5,000 is enough?
Yes, I actually do think that's a pretty good number. I believe it's higher than it was last year, which is nice. Last year, if you take a look at how the money was spent last year, it was spent I feel very poorly, especially in things like an $1,100 ad in the Collegian. A lot of people complained about that today, and it's one of the things I agree with. I think we could use it better towards other sources or having other ads or other types of publicity. So.
Representative Smith?
Why do you think the debate space technology cost is so low? Really $50 had more with scheduling a club is very low. It's not even a get you a projector. If you need it.
Honestly, I worked off of a figure that was on last year's budget. I didn't actually even really look at that, and I don't think we're going to need a projector. I think it's just going to be mostly mics. Plus, room space and such should actually be covered under the fact that this is working for student government. So.
Representative Lombard?
Just looking at the budget again with the public polling locations, you only allocate $60. How many polling locations are you?
There should be a polling location here in the hub, and also polling locations during the dinner hours at all of the dining commons. And we might not even need that much money actually towards those things. A lot of stuff that should be going on, such as reserving tables to sit at, should be free. So that shouldn't be much of an issue. I think the $60 is pretty much just going to be a discretionary type of thing if we need to purchase any sort of materials for publicity day. Technology such as laptops, those can actually be rented through the library, so that's what we did last year, at least for the polling place in the hub. Last year, the polling places at the dining commons during dinner hours were set up and manned by Arsh. So I will be working with their person in charge of elections to decide how we're going to do things.
Mr. Carvello?
Alex, I noticed that you have a laser printer for commission office. We still have the laser printer or a printer that was purchased last year by the commission in addition to 2 copiers in our office. So I was wondering if that was really a needed expense.
The laser printer is down there because it actually came very handy last year having some sort of printing device in the election commission office. I put down for a new printer just in case the old one either doesn't work or toner is unreasonably expensive for that printer. I remember last year I actually was able to get that printer on sale for $70 and toner was $90. So we'll see exactly. Like I said, these are rough estimates. We'll go with a full-fledged actual budget in the very distant, near future.
Well,
if we approve the budget, that means that these categories are gonna be fixed for you guys to work in, the details of which you can work out with the commission. So would you be opposed to just moving that money to your discretion, that way?
That's fine, you wanna move it to discretionary and we'll use it as we need to, that's fine then.
Representative Karasik?
$2,000, where does that got the extra $2,000? Is that for the, election day celebration, where did that come from?
That's a great question, it's listed on your budget as a separate item, on the spring 2009 budget.
Okay, I didn't know if it was from the.
So I'm assuming that was allocated at some other point in time.
Further questions, any other questions? We just have like another minute. Alright, thank you.
Can I make one more comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Any additional money that, up until that 5,000 that actually isn't like allocated on there, or we're moving things around, can we just say it's gonna be discretionary spending, and then we'll work with it from there, move it towards publicity or whatever we need to?
Could you repeat that?
Since the budget that I gave you doesn't add all the way up to $5,000,
Yeah.
anything that's not part of that, that hasn't been allocated yet, can we just move it to discretionary, and so we get $5,000 total?
So you want
So 150.
Yes. Let's just move that to discretionary, so that way we don't have to worry about it later on.
Okay, thank you. Alright, and with that, we're gonna move into discussion on the elections budget. Representative Lohner.
I definitely agree with the suggestion to try and use the last year if possible. So I move to amend the, strike laser printer for commission office and add, $120 for discretionary making that. Discretionary, I guess I have to add that, I have to move that, add that category.
No, it's on there, the third one, yes.
Okay, that's. So that would be the one.
Second.
Any objections to that? Is everyone clear on what he said? Okay, so he moved the $120 on line 4 for the laser printer to line 3 for discretionary spending. It was seconded. Any objections? Okay. Mr. Crivello, for the discussion?
I also move to amend to increase the discretionary spending an additional $154, bringing the total commission budget to $5,000, which was allocated by the assembly.
Any objections to making that a clean 5,000? So the
Yeah, it would be $394 for discretion.
Any objections? Okay, further discussion? Are we ready to vote? Representative Moy? Okay, any objections to voting? Okay, are there any objections to the budget? All right, moving into voting, I'm gonna go by roll call. Secretary? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Michael Ollinger. Justin Bish. Mark Cannon. Rob Cavello.
Yes.
Justin Dove.
Yes.
Nicholas Heim. Hubert Hines.
Yes.
Andrew Pearson.
Yes.
John King.
Yes.
Daniel Large.
Yes.
Sam Lohner.
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard.
Yes.
Nick Nance.
Yes.
Haley McFernan. Sean Malloy.
Yes.
Samantha Miller.
Yes.
Christopher Knott.
Yes.
Ellie Okelberg. Greg Plum. Bryant Poland. Oh, I'm sorry. Kelly Potter.
Yes.
Megan Quinn. Amy Sanders. Philip Slesser.
Yes.
Richard Tremansky. Colleen Smith. Matthew Smith. Michael Smith. Michael Wallace. Kara Zinger.
Yes.
Passes 2501. Moving on to resolution 25. We have an introduction by Representative Smith. Okay, introduction for resolution 25. We have Mr.
Okay, 25. I think if you turn through your agenda, it's actually included. This resolution was passed through academic affairs last week by a vote of 7-0-2. The two extensions were from education. It was Representative Oakenberg and Representative Hott. Now, the extensions were, I think they're well thought out. There are some contentions with not wanting to have complications from lag time. If you read through the entire proposal, though, the reason why we need to get this through right now is because Faculty Senate will be putting up with a recommendation for this in the next month, and AG will be going forward with this in the next two, or at least bringing this up for subcommittee for next year. So after extensive discussions, I would say that this isn't a simply random proposal. The 9 a.m. beginning for classes would actually improve class attendance. The university, the president of the university himself has said that he would like to see less 8 a.m. classes and has what's been going on. And since there's fewer courses offered already at 8 a.m. classes, that regularly scheduled Tuesday, Thursday courses will be better aligned with a 9 a.m. class. So obviously the vast majority voted in favor of this.
Okay. Any questions? Will you stand for questions? Mr. Smith?
Sure.
Any questions? Representative Mance?
My apologies if I'm not seeing somewhere in this resolution now, but do you have any ideas of the timeline or any set date as to when we might actually see this being happening?
Well, I mean, scheduling starts in March, and this would take effect for at least the full so I would say this fall earliest.
Other questions? Representative Lurch? I can't hear you at all.
It's kind of a personal question. Sorry.
I have it down, but I can show you. I'll take any other questions.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm not sure what he's doing right now, but discussion on resolution 25. Representative Leonard?
I wanted to add just a couple of things to that introduction. Mostly just in support of it. This definitely was not, has been something that academic affairs has been working on for quite a while. I've had a lot of communication with the registrar, actually. I discussed pretty much every part of this with her so far. And I think hopefully everyone's read it. I think I did a pretty good job of explaining everything in here. But I just want to make clear, since it might be brought up later, or brought up in academic affairs, the reason that I tried to explain both categories on here, one we're endorsing, which is figure one, and one we're not endorsing, which is figure two, is because we want to make sure we get the whole story in here. It's full of legislation, the entire story of the issue, and I tried to capture it here. I think it's the registrar's office wants to see anyway addressing both of these and making sure that you know what we think is best for the constituents.
Justin? Something?
We're at a point.
We are.
Rising.
Are you?
Yeah, well, I have information that I can share with this.
Okay, further discussion?
It is discussion.
Mr. Covello?
I'll stall for a minute. Being a student who has had many labs and they all happen at 8 in the morning, I have one tomorrow as well from 8 to 2:30. So I can definitely say that postponing it an hour would greatly improved my performance in many courses that I have taken. This is an ongoing dialogue. It was started last year when I served on an AQ, and I'm glad to see a resolution in UPUA having a strong push moving forward with this. Okay, I'm chairing. Just further discussion. Representative Howe.
Just like a question for Matt or anybody. What's the dissenting opinion on this? I know like you don't want to talk about why not to pass it, but what would the opposition say?
Well, I think Dan has a lot to say.
Would you like to respond? We're in debate, yes.
Well, I've been actually, Sam Lohner brought this to my attention back, what was it, Sam, November? LAUCB, he brought this to my, in being heavily involved in activities, somebody that, has taken a lot of 8 a.m. classes, just wanted to do more research into it, wanted to see, some maybe things that were, some oversight that may have come across. One of the first things I directly noticed was, it says in here, irregular scheduled classes, mostly referring to the labs. However, there are, especially language classes, I know, that are based on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. I know like Russian's 4 days a week, Arabic's 5 days a week. These classes are based on those time periods. I was going through this, and usually those classes offer 3 time slots on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it's hard to explain it, because visually I can show you what I'm trying to describe here, I'm going to do my best. Okay, so people that, have had, like, you probably understand that. What happens is, some of these classes actually, like, start at the same times that a Tuesday, Thursday class would. In case of this, for example, an 11:15 class, which I'm actually currently in 11:15 Arabic class. It starts at 11:15, ends at 12:05. It's really actually, it really helps me, it still fits into that weird Tuesday, Thursday scheduling, and I don't lose a potential to take more classes. I lose 1 class spot, which, that's fine. However, if we go into the new proposed schedule, what would happen is I would lose 2 class spots by taking that 11:15 Arabic class. And one of my biggest concerns is, if you don't understand, what would happen is I take the class at 11:15, 12:30. I'd not be able to take any class in the proposed 10:30 to 11:45 time slot, because the class starts at 11:15 and the other class ends at 11:45. I would not be able to take any class between 12 o'clock and the 1:15 time slot, because the class ends at 12:05. The other class starts at 12 o'clock. I lose 2 classes in that time period. This happens also subsequently for anybody that would have like a 2:30 class. I don't know, statistically I haven't seen much data. I asked for data, there hasn't been much data on this taken into consideration. The biggest, like I said, it's one of my biggest concerns. I think if this is taken into consideration, it should really be dictated on this, that we explain that, for specific classes, more than just your general morning lab, that these classes have to shift to be comparable so students don't lose those 2 class periods. And that's just one of my arguments. So
Further discussion, Representative Slesser?
Well, that's just what I was going to say. Don't you think that they would eventually shift the classes to what you want? Well, you're saying that we put that must happen.
I mean, it's something that would be in the best benefit of the students if this is a student-oriented document, that this be taken into consideration, major consideration.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thank you for your patience. All right, here's the realities. These are the hard data. Now, I'm sure you guys will be bored with this. But fall 2008, which is last semester, the number of classes that were offered Tuesday, Thursday, first thing in the morning. This is a breakdown. You haven't seen the above it. This is a breakdown of the classroom starting at 8 a.m. and ending at the end of the day. Universities are saying 35%. Professors are not offering classes in the morning. By moving up to 9 a.m., what you're going to do is spread this number out from there. The bell curve is right now. You're going to pull those into the morning. So you're actually going to have more classes offered in the morning. And instead of having what happens if we were to, like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday has an even lower percentage offered at 8 a.m. So, why wouldn't you want to get up and go to class at 9 a.m. Unless you have a lab, and the labs can be scheduled at 8 a.m. anyway. The only professors that are offering classes at this time anyway are mostly science labs. I mean, that just is 35% of the university usage of all classroom space, which means that the great majority of classes that students want to take aren't even being offered that time of the day. So what this does is it moves the burden from professors that are basically what you're going to have is the ones who aren't the tenured faculty who are getting first dibs on classroom space, and have a much, we're going to have a better university for this.
Mr. Gabello?
Just to go on the point that was brought up about, I guess, the schedule not being even. I mean, I've had classes in which on Tuesday I've had 11:15 class, and then on Thursday I had a different time. I don't think that, I think the registrar already compensates and does that. If a professor wants to teach on 4 days, it doesn't always have to be the same uniform time, or for that matter, room. I've had room changes. I've never had a room and time change in the class, but I definitely have room changes across a week and time changes across the week for the same class. So I think that concern, if I understand it correctly, has already been addressed and is already part of the scheduling regime.
Representative Lurch?
Just a question right to you, Rob. Like, what class are you talking, like a poli-sci class where there's like it breaks into discussion? Because I understand classes like science classes, they don't have like labs, they have like discussion classes where it breaks into a different time period because they have to. Yeah, they're smaller.
It wasn't a discussion class, but it wasn't the liberal arts college. It was econ class.
Okay. Yeah, but like I said, like languages, they tend to keep over that same time 5 days a week.
Those are just intro language courses that you're talking about. You're not talking about upper level language classes.
Intro, where, yeah.
Yeah, where you usually have like a 4-day-a-week sort of situation. Colleen Smith?
I've just added to the request. I've had both my cap list 140. I've had both my cap 140 and 141 classes instead of like that where I'll have my Tuesdays, my Thursdays, which count as one day of class would be in a different group or a different time. Both semesters I had.
Matt Smith? Representative Smith? Go ahead.
Well, no, I just really want you guys to support the work that Academic Affairs did. I mean, 702 is a very strong affirmation of the proposal. There's really only 3 choices. Do nothing, move it up to 9 a.m., or add another class period to the day that people aren't going to take advantage of. So, I'll also let Benji Kelly go, but after that point, then I'll ask her.
Representative Lombard?
Matt, I was just wondering what under Tuesday, Thursday, why is this 13, 14?
Well, that's just because the first 12 classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like offerings, and then these are the student. It's like it's a full 18 credit offering, 18 courses. I don't know. 18 time slots basically.
Okay, so 13 is 9 a.m.
Yeah, this would be 8 a.m., which would become
8 a.m.
Representative Slusser?
I mean, back for really hard on this, it just makes sense. No one wants to get up for 8 a.m. anyway. It just makes sense.
Mr. Kierans?
This has been clearly endorsed by Academic Affairs. I don't see the need to debate so much. I think there's a clear-cut argument as to the need for it. I think it's been debated many times by the people that we have constituted to form that committee, and I think we should support their work.
Representative Shermansky?
Second.
Objections to any debate on resolution 25? All right, thanks. Roll call. Secretary.
Alright, Michael Ollinger, Justin Mitch, Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Rob Cavello,
Yes.
Dustin Dubs,
Yes.
Nicholas Hines, Hubert Hines,
Yes.
Andrew Kersit,
Yes.
John King,
Yes.
Daniel Lurch, Daniel Lurch,
No.
Sam Lohner,
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard,
Yes.
Stephen Lucas, Nick Vance,
Yes.
Haley McKernan, Sean Malloy, Samantha Miller, Christopher Knott, Ellie Okelberg, Greg Plum, Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Amy Slusser, Richard Shermansky, Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith, Michael Smith, Michael Wallace, Kara Zinger. Abstain.
Passes 22-1-2. Moving on to resolution 26, we have an introduction by Mr. Smith. When he has a moment. Representative Smith, do you have an introduction for resolution 26, or would you like us to just begin debate or discussion? Do you have an introduction for resolution 26?
Yes.
Thanks.
And it is very important that I introduce this. Okay. Arts and Architecture is an amazing job this year. I was just bragging about them today to Dean Godelius, former Associate Dean of Arts and Architecture. What the recommendations are is essentially impetus from the Assembly, and I think that's what this vote is about, to encourage IST and communications to, as we put it, build up their student councils. I really feel like IST is coming back, and Sam Loder's working really hard with the COM right now to get their council stood up. But what it's going to do for all of us, with our support, keep them moving and motivated to have representatives and delegates for next year, which is going to improve the quality of our legislation. But foremost, Ellie Oberberg and Amanda Rodchek did an awesome job this year getting arts and architecture.
Questions? Mr. Cairns? Questions? No? Okay. Discussion on resolution 26, Mr. Cairns?
Yeah, I think this resolution is really important. I think this should be a model for what we do with other organizations and recognize other groups, which I believe was the intent of the work with academic affairs here. I would like to see in the future we bring in other student organizations to recognize them and the hard work that they do on different initiatives or efforts. And I think that's the responsibility of all of you to kind of recognize the work of other groups and bring it to our attention. So I appreciate you guys doing this, and I think it's very well done.
Mr. Crivello?
Very quickly, I think this is a wonderful piece of legislation as well. Last year, when I approached the interim dean for arts and architecture and asked them what they had at council, and to both of our dismay, the answer was no. The work began there, and there's been a tremendous effort, and it's constituted this, and obviously we have a representative and senator. And I think Matt has done a wonderful job on carrying on and ensuring that councils are being properly formed and representative of their student body. So I think this is a wonderful piece of legislation. I commend the Academic Affairs Committee and Matt Smith for a job well done and good continued hard work.
Further discussion? Representative Kerrison?
I'm going to be.
Objections to ending debate on resolution 26? Okay, roll call. Secretary?
Michael Aldinger. Justin Bish.
Yes.
Mark Cannon.
Yes.
Rob Cavello.
Yes.
Dustin Dowd. Nicholas Hines. Hubert Hines. Andrew Kerrison.
Yes.
John King. Daniel Lerch. Sam Lohner. Benjamin Lombard.
Yes.
Nick Mantz.
Yes.
Haley McClernon. Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Christopher Knopf.
Yes.
Ellie Okelberg. Greg Kahn.
Yes.
Kelly Potter. Megan Quinn. Christian Ragland. Proxy, yes. Acid Sanders. Philip Slusser.
Yes.
Richard Shermansky.
Yes.
Pauline Smith. Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Michael Smith. Michael Wallace. Kara Zinger. Yes.
Passes 27-0-0. Mr. Crivello?
Is there a point of order? My motion not raised here anyways. On behalf of the secretary, I move for a 5-minute recess.
No, yeah, you want it on
Okay, that's fine. I moved out a 5-minute recess so we can stretch our legs, maybe run down and get some coffee. I don't even know if the store's open downstairs. Because we have at least, well, depending on another motion that's going to consume debate, and also we have reports and so forth to do. So we at least have another 45 minutes to an hour. I figure a 5-minute stretch would be beneficial to everyone before we get into any further
We're
discussion.
anticipating elections done. Any objections for a 5-minute recess? No. Okay, 5-minute recess. Do we have an objection?
Hold on.
Oh, okay. President Quinn?
Hold on.
Okay, so there was an objection, discussion on the recess of 5 minutes.
Move to vote.
Okay, voting on a recess, show of hands, all those in favor? Oh, okay, second, Josh, okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand at this time. In favor of a 5-minute recess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9. Abstentions? You're smiling doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm the tiebreaker. We're having a 5-minute recess. 10, 9, 6. Alright, getting back to business. Glad to see all of you here.
I know the absence of a quorum.
I said I know the absence of the quorum, so we have the same recess.
Okay.
So we gotta stay.
Technically, the secretary should continuously read off the roll until we have a quorum present, but I think we can dispense with that formality.
Secretary, I will resign right now. Not about that.
So we might have to wait.
If something was to be considered, it would only be a majority.
That's because we define our session as being a semester. If a session is a meeting, like a normal board or whatever, if you use that meeting, it's something like that, they consider each meeting a session, and so you can only reconsider then, and you have to recommend something previously adopted at the next meeting, which is 2/3, so because we define our bylaws as we have to define our bylaws as
Yes or no?
Is a correct motion to reconsider?
And this majority requires a second, it's debatable, since the original motion is debatable, and it has to be made by someone who voted against the original motion. Well, actually, no, usually it's in favor of the original motion, sometimes it's in favor is a majority, or majority.
You smell it? Okay. Then I smelled it. I was like, well, did you just smoke? Okay, good. I was like, someone's fucking smoking over here.
No, we have 18.
Want to make yourself open on fire.
You're such a
The one next to you, he stole yours.
I didn't steal anything.
We didn't have a quorum.
I'm gonna go back out there.
Sam, roll that
Have the
Secretary will call the roll, see if there's quorum. Secretary?
Michael Aldinger, Justin Bish, Mark Cannon. One second. Rob Cavello.
Here.
Dustin Dodge. Nicholas Hines. Hubert Hines. Andrew Karasek. John King. Daniel Larsh. Sam Lomar. Benjamin Lombard. Stephen Lucas. Nick Vance. Haley McClernand. Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Christopher Morrell. Christopher Knott. Ellie Okelberg. Greg Plum. Bryant Pullen. Kelly Potter. Megan Quinn. Christian Ragland. Amy Sanders. Philip Slusser. Richard Tremansky. Colleen Smith. Matthew Smith. Michael Smith. Is Michael Smith here? I'm sorry. No. Michael Wallace. Kara Zinger.
Okay, we have quorum. So continuing on, thank you, with new business. Other motions, Representative Miller?
I move to reconsider the elections code for 2009.
Any objections? All right. Do you have an introduction?
This is the elections code you heard last week. It's now being reconsidered since you graciously voted it down. Hopefully we can get it passed tonight. There were some things that were addressed. The elections code in front of you, not everybody has it, correct?
Almost everyone.
All right, well, if we need to, we can put it up on the screen. The elections code in front of you stands with all amendments from the ID committee. All other amendments will have to come from the floor this evening. There was one issue, and that was with the incorporation of academic seats. I'm going to let Chairman Smith deal with that and make a motion should he so choose. However, we did come to a basic agreement on that of some possible scenarios of how to lower the barrier to those seats in an effort to work with the faculty senate so that we can hopefully get such as the alternates considered. I think those who did come out to our little open ID committee meeting, that's all I have right now.
All right. Representative Miller.
Okay, I voted against this elections code last week because of the accounting portion, and I wasn't sure how to address it. As it stands, as it's written, the president and vice president can spend up to $600. The at-large representatives can spend up to $300, and anyone running for another office can spend up to $200. While I understand it does cost money to run a campaign, I think we need to look at the current times that we face, the economic situation. Tuition is more than likely, it's certainly not going to drop, it's going to go up, we don't know by how much. We're paying more fees than ever, and most of the debate that lasted for an hour and a half last night revolved around running competitive elections and how to remove barriers to entry. I think those totals are humongous barriers to entry because there's no public financing portion to them. I also understand, though, that writing a public financing portion into this elections code, given the time we have before elections, is somewhat unreasonable. I don't think it is in the future, but I think in the time that we have left now, the complications would be too much to get this through for when it needs to come into effect, which is very shortly. And for that reason, I think that the barriers to entry that I see, which are the totals for each of the seats, needs to come down for this year until we can figure out a way that candidates can raise their money instead of paying out of pocket. When they might not have that money out of pocket, their parents might not have that money to give to them. They might not be able to work or spend what they worked for on an election. And, certainly no one can get a loan to run in a state government election. That's absurd. So with that, I move to amend 6.0201 to $350, 6.0202 to $150, and 6.02.03 to $100.
What was the last one?
$100.
Could you repeat all three of those, please?
Yes, for president, vice president, move from 600 to 350. For at large, move to 150, and for all other offices, move to $100.
Okay, is there a second? Any objections to that amendment?
I reserve the right to object.
Do you want to?
Well, yes, I'd like to continue discussion on this just a little bit, for a little while anyways, hopefully a couple minutes. I think there's somewhat of a misconception. I actually don't necessarily disagree with lowering some of the amounts for the state reason, but I think that you can run a presidential campaign spending $0 and still have flyers, a bunch of other things. You can get donations and take things from home and use your free printing capacity of the university and so forth. And while that counts towards your total, everything you technically use in the campaign will get assessed at value and then deducted from your total. You can still receive things for free, not having to spend any money out of pocket. So these limits are more as a cap on total, I guess, available resources than expecting people to run or to spend $600 at the presidential level. But then again, I don't think that we should discourage students from putting some money towards the limit. So I think this is an interesting compromise from public financing. And like I said, I'm not necessarily 100% opposed to it, but I do think that the existing limits were set there for a reason, because that's precedent on kind of how much we've spent. But also realizing that this doesn't require people to spend a dime. Quite to the contrary, most people use free printing, get things donated to them, to ask their parents for stuff from around the house, etc. And although that counts towards a limit, it's nothing out of pocket. And so the commission does encourage resourcefulness on that level. So those are just some ideas for you to think about in voting for this amendment.
Representative Miller?
I'm just going to say, well, I understand Representative Chabel's point about using resources and collecting things from home and things like that. Yes, that's possible, but I think that, what do we want this campaign to be about? Do we want it to be about the quality of the candidate or the quality of the things they're handing out? And I just think people are at a disadvantage if, especially now when all of these things are happening at the university, they can hardly afford tuition, never mind a potential $600 campaign or a potential $150 or $300 campaign, etc. And if we're trying to encourage new competition to come into these elections, not everyone has gone through the UQA election process before. Even some of the people who've been appointed to the assembly haven't gone through the process before. They might not know about the other resources candidates can use. Those candidates, understandably, aren't necessarily going to want to share their practices. They're trying to win an election here. And I think that when they look at this and they see this, it could be an automatic, I definitely can't afford that. This is not an opportunity I can pursue, and I don't think that's fair.
Representative Warner?
I agree with this amendment. I think it's, I think it's definitely a good compromise between the public finance and the I agree with Representative Miller's reasons, and beyond that, I think that these numbers aren't unreasonable, and I think the biggest thing we need to look at is that a lot of that money, a lot of that $600 figure and the other figures was sort of worked in my opinion, to deal with the publicity stage, since in the past there wasn't heavy amount of money, UQA money spent on publicity from the election commission, but now we see over $1,000 from the commission being spent on publicity for voting. So I think that sort of deals with, I think because of that, we can justify lowering these.
Representative Knock?
I see where Representative Moner is coming from, but I think he's kind of a little backwards. I think that because the Election Commission is spending even more money on publicity, the candidates should spend even more money on their own publicity, because Because if all of this stuff works out, you know, ideally, then elections will be more competitive. Because elections will be more competitive, in order for candidates for president and vice president to compete, they're going to have to spend more money on publicity. So I think that the $600 cap may have been excessive last year, but it might be right on target this year with the new changes that have been implemented.
That would usually mean 300 for president and 300 for vice president. They would usually split it in my experience. Representative Bish, you're next, sorry.
I would completely disagree with what you just said. Being a new representative here, said that the new people that are here wouldn't know how to run this campaign. As soon as I looked at that number, I said, holy hell, how am I going to do this? And so you hit it right on the head. I have never been through a campaign yet. Those numbers look high to me, and I think it is going to increase the gap between the people that are on this council and the people that want to be on the council because they don't know how it's run. If you know the ways that you can get around spending your own money, well, that's to your advantage. I don't think the other people know.
Representative Moy.
Yeah. As we've debated before, that this election process is not exactly like the United States election process. In that spirit, I think that we should be hoping for the best, that students will be knowledgeable that there's an election happening, and go do the research into the candidates, read their platform, and make the best decision in that regard, not who has the best pins or stickers or whatever else you can buy with that, with your campaign money. So I support it.
Representative Shermansky. Any objections? Okay. Representative Karasik.
I would remind everyone that the ID committee recommended a provision in the suggested 2009 document that standardizes the costs for every candidate, meaning that every candidate is assessed the same cost for whatever they purchase. It's $600. No, you don't have to spend the $600. You can get it for however much it costs you, whatever you can do. But every candidate will be assessed in the same way. So if person A gets 10 shirts and the commission sets that price at $3 a piece, then that is $30. And person B gets 10, everybody is being charged the same thing. So it's standardized. If you truly feel that to run a school-wide campaign for a competitive election, which is really what we want, a competitive election, if you don't need this amount of money, then that's fine. But I think that in some ways it can cost this much money to run a successful school-wide campaign.
All right, and with that said, I'd like to vote on ending debate. So all those in favor of ending debate, please raise your hand at this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Opposed? 17. Motion fails.
Setting of the election commission, there's still gonna have to be a winner and a loser. You're not gonna prevent someone from winning an election, and everyone's gonna still be running under the exact same umbrella of what they're allowed to use. So by bringing it down, I don't think you're taking anyone's advantage away. It's still an equal playing field, and maybe possibly a more equal playing field. And this isn't even just about the highly publicized president, vice president elections. You have to also think of the at-large representatives and the other college-wide, on-campus and off-campus representatives. We want those to be more competitive too. And I mean, $300 is a lot of money to spend on an at-large race. And I'd say $200 for the rest. It's still too much.
Representative Dove.
I support this amendment because I know that, sorry,
Loner.
no,
Karasik.
I do agree that you do not have to spend the $600 if it was $600 for the other professors and other amounts, but those who are running campaigns and have the ability to do this, spend $600 probably will, and those who do not have the ability to do that, there's no option for them to do that. So I think it's kind of unfair to us not to spend the full amount with the other three institutes on this free campaign.
Representative Hines?
I know that it seems like a lot, but when you think about the fact that we go to school with 30,000 plus people, I don't think that to spend $600 between two people is really that amount. It's really that much. When you think about flyers and T-shirts, and if you want to add in police or anything else you want to do, that's really not a whole lot of money. I mean, I can see if it was like $6,000, that's off the wall. But I don't think you have to spend $600. It's not like they said in order to run for president, you have to be able to furnish this amount of money. I mean, like, you know that the document is here. You know before you want to run that somebody might be able to spend that amount. If you don't have that amount, then you want to, ask your parents, take a loan, whatever you want to do, if that's what it needs to do. It's a large school. What you're getting ready to get into is a big responsibility. You're going to be the face of the student government. If you don't think you can put up that amount of money right now, then it's not the time for you to run.
Representative Smith?
I hate that I have to go before my amendment to see if I can break through the bridges before I but I want to make sure that I articulate the realities. And no one is going to spend $600.00 on this election. If you do, I think we all realize that you run a serious risk of disqualification because someone's always going to call you out on something. The lower you put the bar, the easier it's going to be to get people thrown out of technicality, which hurts me and I think hurts the organization. While I don't want to can't spend that much money, from my view, it could be a lot worse because I know for a fact you have schools in the Big Ten like Ohio State that have election caps of $2,000, and the students who won those are the people that spend $1,999. Instead of getting into that position, I think that cutting it in half is probably too much, Sam, and I'm really sorry, but I think that if we split up the amendments instead of saying, as you put the 300 and the 200 cut in half at the bottom, which I feel is good, I really think that to make sure that the president is as strong as possible, that to try and keep this vote as possible. I just think that 300 is really low.
Representative Knock?
Exactly. I completely agree with this amendment. I think that, setting a limit at 300 is completely insulting the scale of our university. After all, the two goes to one of the larger universities. I mean, gosh, they're going to connect to everybody on the university with $300. I mean, honestly, I can connect to everybody on the university with $600. I think that 600 is too low to run a presidential campaign at the Pennsylvania State University. I think that's kind of crazy,
Representative, you said you agree or disagree with the amendment?
I disagree with the amendment.
Okay. Representative Slesser?
I'm an Eagle Scout. I've been a scout for about a year. Thrifty is pounded into my brain. Maybe it's just my college, but I have so many venues that I'll take an email and I'll get out to every single student in the college. And that can get pushed on by the dean to get out to every single student at the university. It's not that hard. In my brain right now, I can think of I could really run a complete campaign, $0, except for paper.
Representative Karasik?
Having combed over the code for the past 2 months in depth, I would say that my interpretation of the point of these caps is more for, as Matt said, for penalization purposes, such that if you go over that, it is to, especially with, as I said, the setting of our fair market value, it is if you go over that to work to disqualify you for that. No one's going to spend 600. The lower we make it, the more likely someone's going to get disqualified, which undermines the integrity of our elections, as Matt said. In addition, as Hubert said, 33,000 people, to reach them, $600 is not a lot of money. With that, I yield the floor to Alex Fish.
Okay.
Although I do agree that
Right now, we have really harsh times. I know I personally could not afford $600 or even $300 running with a running mate in order to do this. But at the same time, I feel that lowering these values actually probably would be one of the, I guess, the wrong thing to do. To cite a few different examples, first of all, I believe it was last year's elections code, we actually raised the values. It was either last year's or 2 years ago. They were raised. They were actually lower, and we decided to raise them because a lot of candidates ran into the point where they almost got disqualified because they almost hit their limit or did hit their limits. You know, there are many people that know that too well, that they got disqualified because of those certain things. Another thing is that you don't have to spend $600 in order to win a campaign. And this was public record, but Hillary Lewis actually spent, it was either the least or the second lowest amount on her campaign out of all the presidential candidates 2 years ago, and won the election. So you don't actually have to go towards $600 in order to be able to actually win the election. Likewise for the other representative positions. The other representative positions don't usually hit that high of a value. I want to say for the other offices, they hardly ever even break $100. So to lower them is just going to hinder, I shouldn't say hinder, but it's not going to really have much of an effect, I think. So, thank you.
Representative Miller?
I yield the floor to the card for us.
Okay.
Everybody, I'm actually still paying $600 that Megan and I spent because I couldn't afford it, but I still put it on my credit card because I really wanted to win. And I got beat by somebody that spent $20-some on a poster and a couple of papers and then a phone tree that she just started in the phone tree with EHC and cut out. But while I do agree that nobody that doesn't have a mission is spending that from personal experience, please don't think that people don't spend that money. People do. 2 years ago, we had our campaign staffers looking out for the other campaigns to see how close they got to the limits. And they got to the point where we were like going to the other campaigns and we know you didn't count the gasoline or the cars that you're like using to drive around campus. And I remember going to Gavin's campaign and like, dude, make sure you count this and you count that. Because I don't want you to get disqualified. So people will push the limits, people will find ways in order to use market value. So while I do agree that it can be seen as a barrier to entry, I think it's up to the elections commissioners to educate the potential candidates that you don't have to spend this whole money, you can be smart about it, but people will get close to those limits and sometimes foolish.
Thank you. Representative Plum?
I just sort of want to echo the rest for what the majority seems to be saying, and that $600 is viable and sometimes needed amount of money to spend for a campaign. I also want to remind everyone that any election is one more lost on 1 square foot of real estate up here. And with that, I motion to end the Second.
Objections? Do it. Talk about it? Okay, objections to ending debate, yes? Would you like to say something about that?
I think the focus was mostly on the presidential thing. I think most people maybe were more amenable to the other two. I moved to amend the amendment to strike or change strike or change to the presidential on that precedent.
So what's your motion again?
Motion is to not change 600, to leave it at 600 and then keep the other two paid.
Just to accept it. Any objections to the amendment Representative Malloy, Representative Hines?
I didn't hear what.
He didn't hear. Can you talk about that again?
My amendment is to remove the change to the $600 figure, but maintain the change in 6.02.02 and 6.02.03. My justification for this is because I
think debate was focused mostly around objections to the presidential figure. And I believe that there are, and I think everyone who spoke on the at-large and other seats were in support of the change. And I think before we end debate, we should lower those numbers as was suggested.
Okay, discussion on the amendment to the amendment. Everyone clear? Just changing the president, vice president one back to 600, leaving the other two as Representative Miller suggested. Discussion, Representative Miller?
If this goes through, I'll still be able to get behind the elections code, but I mean, I do want to respond to what was said before about it being insulting to such a large university about making connections on a lower amount of money. I think it's insulting to think that you need to buy your connections with Penn State University instead of going out and getting them, which, I mean, that is done between dialogue and coming up with a decent platform that really looks to serve the students, and I think that should take precedent over any amount of money, whether it be $0 or $5 million.
Representative Malloy?
Yes, I'd like to agree with my fellow Eagle Scout over there, that it's really about what organizations and who you know and direct contact, letting people know what your ideas are, what you plan to do, and why you want them to support you. It's, once again, not about flyering campus, or putting stickers everywhere on campus or on everyone who walks through the hub, and just creating a buzz, and then making it seem cool to vote for that candidate. I think we really want the president of this organization and representatives to be people who are attached to the community, and have told the community what they're going to do. Not only do they hear more concerns, if they are elected, they can bring them here, but they will make people think about UQA and the overall election. They will not just make them think about who has the bulletin signs, et cetera, et cetera. I think that what we really need are people who are engaged with students and have talked to students to get elected, not walk their way through their catchy phrases on stickers or anything.
Further discussion on the amendment to the amendment. Representative Hines?
I do agree with your statement, but I mean, while we're talking about people connecting to people, it's nice that you want to go around and talk to people, but you can't talk to 33,000 people. I don't care how many clubs you go to, you're not going to get in contact with all of them. So to lower the limit, all that does is take away anything from the election rate. So we have 33,000 people, but the whole student body doesn't know what UPUA is. I know I have friends that ask me every time I go to UPUA what I'm actually going to. So if you're lowering the limit, you're actually not involving people. I'd rather see people hand out stickers and buttons and flyers and at least get people to know what's happening. Because we have an election that people don't vote in, people don't know about an organization that the majority of the campus still doesn't recognize. That's what I got to say.
Representative Karasik?
I'll just remind everyone that the constituency for at-large is the same as president. I really don't see a problem with these. If I had seen a problem with these figures, it would come to you as a recommendation from the IG committee. I think they're all fine. Sorry, Philippines still else, so.
Representative Slesser?
I mean, just to drive my point home, I've never run a campaign before, but in my mind, you need 5 things: your brain, your mouth, your heart, and 2 feet. That's all you need to run a successful campaign. You don't need anything else. If you can get out there and talk to the people, that's what really matters. No one wants to read a flyer. They want to hear what you have to say.
Motion.
Mr. Cavallo?
I move to end debate on the amendment to the amendment.
Second.
Any objections? Would you like to clarify it?
I'd just like to read again, just most of the thing that.
Okay, the amendment to the amendment is, so the amendment originally proposed by Representative Miller was to change the $3 amounts that you see there, 600, 300, 200 respectively to 350, 150, 100. The amendment to the amendment proposed by Representative Lohner was to turn back the presidential vice president dollar limit to 600, but keep Representative Miller's amendment at $150 and $100 for at-large representatives and all other offices. So, amendments to the amendment.
Voting in this amendment does not mean you're voting against the entire amendment that Representative Miller proposed.
We're voting in favor of or against Representative Lohner's 600, 150, 100. Okay? Show of hands in favor of the amendment to the amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Opposed? 1,
Aye, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Abstentions? 1, 2. Amendment. So the amendment passes 14-7-2. Can you just do it, please?
The motion in the previous question is now in order. I guess if there aren't any objections to any debate on the overall amendment now with the correction. So we're voting on 600, 150, and 100 now totally. If there aren't any objections to further discussion.
Representative Moore. Jason?
I feel that if we're not gonna reduce the presidential one, there's no need to reduce the at-large, or the other offices. So I suggest you go with this.
Okay. So we have to vote on any debate. All those in favor of any debate? Representative Miller's amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Opposed? 1. Abstentions? 0. 22. Yeah. Okay. Now we're voting on the amendment. It's 2110. Voting on the amendment, proposed by Representative Miller, at 600, 150, and 100. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Abstentions? Someone didn't vote on the last one, by the way. Abstentions, 0. 12, 11. 12, 11, 0. No, I don't want it to go. Okay, further discussion.
Wait, point of order, how many representatives are present?
Yeah, by our count it's 23, unless someone just chose not to vote at all.
Someone did not vote in the last one on the amendment proposed by Representative Lohner. That total was 2110. So if you're not paying attention, please pay attention and raise your hand high. And I'll usually point to you to make sure you know that I've counted your vote. So that's usually the process if you haven't gotten it by now.
And what was the vote on the amendment?
12, 11, 0.
Amendment passes.
What were you saying to Vice President?
I was saying she could cast a vote if she wanted to determine the outcome of the amendment. She could cast a vote negation, and if she refrained from casting a vote, so the amendment passes. Makes sense? 12, which means you not have a majority. Okay.
But I'm not casting a vote. Okay. Further discussion on the elections code. Representative Smith.
As Andrew's kind of catching up here in my notes, I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions about this, but it's going to be in 2 tiers. And the biggest one is that as academic affairs chair, this came around partially last time, but I would like to propose an amendment to 4.06.02, and it would be added to front of
bylaws. I already have it down. My amendment, I move that an amendment be added with the exception of representatives of the academic units at University Park as identified in 2.02.02, comma.
Yeah, can you repeat that so we can get it up on the screen?
Yes.
John.
My amendment was with the exception of representatives of the academic units at University Park as identified in 2.02.02, comma.
Any objections to that amendment? Our secretary has it. Representative Karasik's just putting it up there for you. Okay, any objections to that amendment? Everyone clear on the amendment? Any objections? Okay. Further discussion?
All right, moving on.
Great, Representative.
Wait 1 second. Did we just pass that?
Yes. There were no objections.
Oh.
You guys, all right. I said, okay, it was seconded. I said, are there any objections to the amendment? There were no objections. I said, are there any objections to the amendment? There were no objections. I said, is everyone clear on the amendment? Nobody said anything.
Representative Smith, could you please read the amendment again? And I apologize.
For whatever, okay, great. Go ahead.
With the exception, this is going to go before like that. With the exception of representatives of the academic units at University Park as identified in subsection 2.02.02, comma. Which I said, that clause identifies what the representatives are, or the middle science law. Says what college is.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment? Yes. Any objections to the amendment? Okay, would you like to state why?
I don't feel like it. I understand where Chair Smith is coming from, where he says he wants to lower the barriers of entry into the body for representatives from the academic colleges. But I just feel like saying that they don't have to get 80 signatures is lowering it too much. We went through this last week, so I want some discourse on this topic.
Mr. Carvello?
Point of order. I asked the chair to clarify. I think that the motion, and it's been objected to already, is not germane because this is identical to the motion made at our previous meeting, which struck the signatory requirements because that was voted down. Yeah, that's what Representative Lohner's motion did in the last meeting. They reduced it to 0, and then there was an attempt to raise it and so forth, but both motions failed. So I would ask the chair to rule on whether it's germane or not, and if it's not germane, then it would have to be reconsidered.
It is germane. It was contentious. There was a lot of discussion, and I'd like to hear discussion now that we've had a week, or actually more, to think about it. So I'm going to continue discussion. Representative Lombard?
I think Matt's given us good reason for maybe eliminating the requirement for these academic representatives. And in some of our discussions that we had before, he stated, at least for the Facility Development Committee, that possibly a report could be generated on whether or not this was a good way of doing things with the elections code, with not having the academic representatives be required to get these signatures. And we could just do it as a clause in the elections code that after this elections code is then void, or suppose when a new elections code is being made, it has to go under review to see whether or not this has been successful. So, okay.
Further discussion on the amendment, Representative Slusser?
I don't care about getting signatures. I can stand out in front of ASI during class and get 250 signatures in 10 minutes. But I want my alternative senator. If this is going to pass, we don't get the alternative senator.
Representative Karasik?
I move to amend the amendment, to say, to the exception of his wording that I paraphrase basically. The wording on the amendment, added at the end, this shall only be in effect for the 2009 election with, and shall require a report to be compiled by the Elections Commission on the effect. The out.
Well, isn't
Yeah.
that what's gonna happen anyways? I mean,
Okay,
theoretically.
well, this shall only be in effect,
Theoretically.
sorry, this shall only be in effect for the 2009 election.
I mean, shouldn't we have a report compiled on the whole elections process
We
from the
do,
commission?
But as it would stand, if next year, if for some reason this doesn't work and the elections code fails like it did last week, then that would remain in. And so I'm asking for this to be in for 1 year with a mandatory review for next year.
Sunset.
Sunset provision, thank you, Mr.
I
Pagello.
wouldn't specifically look at.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment to the amendment?
Second.
Objections?
Aye.
Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to, maybe I can withdraw this after I'm saying here, something like that. I mean, isn't the provision about it only being effective from 2009 clear with the, very beginning you said it's elections code act of 2009? I mean, I see what you're saying about it failing, so I think it would be bad if it went to end it, if we started saying, well, if it fails next year, so
Further discussion on this? Representative Karasik?
The reason that we are putting it in on this is because this was designed as something that we are going to try to see if it, by decreasing the barrier to entry, if we are actually going to see an increase in academic aggregates. This is something that the Faculty Senate wants. This is something that IB committee decided that it would be a good thing to try, but it is something that we do not necessarily want to grant in perpetuity. Everything else in this document, we think, in our opinion, in IB's opinion, would be fine to be carried out in perpetuity should this document fail in future years, or not be edited, or not be amended. However, this is something that we only want to be in effect for 1 year with a mandatory review of policy.
Representative Loner?
I withdraw.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, is everyone clear on it first? Do we need a reading by the secretary? A yes, I'm having some head nods, yes? Okay, secretary, can you read the amendment to the amendment, please?
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure how Angel wanted it worded, but I just wrote, amend the amendment to at the end say this shall only be in effect for the 2000 election. I know you said something about the mandatory review later, but I wasn't sure if that was part of the actual.
That's exactly what it is.
Read the whole thing, please.
This shall only be in effect for the 2009 election with a mandatory review by the Internal Development Committee during their creation of the 2010 elections code.
Okay. If there are no further objections to the amendment to the amendment, all those in favor of this, please raise your hand. He always says a different number. Okay. Opposed? 1. Abstentions? 0. 2210 passes. Further discussion on the original amendment proposed by Representative Smith. Representative Smith?
Okay, like I said, I just want to preempt a lot of questions about this. As everyone knows, Academic Assembly was merged into the Senate, and UPOA was formed essentially. One of the things that a lot of people are overlooking is that what Academic Affairs, Academic Assembly does is it is the point of origin for the voice of the academic units around the university. How many people here are governmental affairs representatives? Are there any facilities representatives? Are there any academic union representatives? Okay, that's the problem. So, what I want to make sure happens this year in elections is that by taking away the signatures, not only do we get the Senate alternates, but also that the non-politicos on the campus come out from their academic units and be strong voices for the academic affairs chair for next year. That's the proposal behind it.
Further discussion on the amendment. Representative Szymanski?
Second.
Objections to ending debate? All right. We're going to have a reading of the amendment by Mr. Carvello.
Amend 4.06.02, insert at the beginning of the paragraph, with the exception of academic units as identified in 02.02.02. Period. The next sentence, this shall only be in effect for 2009 elections with a mandated review for the creation of the 2010 code.
Everyone got it? Okay. All those in favor of this amendment, please raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? 2. Abstentions? 0. 21-0 passes. Further discussion on the elections code. Representative Smith.
A follow-up. I'd like to amend section 8.14. The reason why I'm proposing the following amendment, and it's very lengthy, so I'll just hand it off to the secretary, but I will read it, is because basically the wording that Andrew put in while trying to help me actually kind of boxed me in and technically wouldn't be legal under faculty senate election. We can't impose our will upon the academic union councils. They have to bequeath that to us. So what I would amend it to say would be, and you're not going to be able to get all this down, but I'll bring it up. For academic college representative elections, the immediate runner-up in the election will be extended the title of faculty senator alternate from that academic unit. If the runner-up declines to assume the faculty senator alternate role and the associated duties, the academic council that is counterpart to the runner-up will be notified of the vacancy and be encouraged to nominate their delegate to the academic affairs committee as the faculty senator alternate.
Objections to the amendment? No objections to the amendment? Okay, further discussion on the elections code. Representative Moy.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment. Section 6.0, 3, under counting. And I feel this could possibly be another thing that we look at for just this year, but we're talking about it. I wish to add in 6.03, 6.03.04, as an additional asset, where the candidates receive money spent, including donations and self-finance.
Could you repeat that, Representative?
Yes, added 6.03.04, where the candidates receive money spent, including donations and self-finance. All right, and we can also add in 6.08, just to kind of make it nice, after 5 calendar days denoting campaign contribution, total campaign value, and it continue as it is.
What was after 200?
It's kind of
I got the first part. What's after 200?
which part? In 6.04?
No, 6.0.
After 6.08, after 5 calendar days denoting campaign contributions, and then continue as it is.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment? Any of
Could the representative introduce the rationale behind the...
Yes. I feel that it's, in most elections, you do have to report where you get your money. The money that is being spent is not entirely huge as is spent in real elections, but it is still a large amount of money. And I think it would be interesting to see where people get their money. Are they getting their money from other students? Are they getting their money from their parents? Are they only getting it from themselves? Are they getting it from the Ohio State University non-objective. But I think it doesn't hurt to have people report where they got their money, even if there is zero.
Any objections to the amendment? It was seconded. Okay, if there are no objections to the. Okay, Representative Karasik, something?
I just want to know actually how much of a nightmare this is going to create for our language commission. So with that, I yield the floor to Alex. Sean, could you just repeat it for Howard, just so he understands this?
Basically, they report where they got their money. It's basically
All money has to be reported exactly where they got it from, whether it got from their parents, Ohio State, wherever they got it.
now how you would verify this, or even if you did verify this, I feel it's something that should be reported.
Honestly, verifying a lot of it's virtually impossible. As is because I know we're not going to actually go and track down everybody's self-insured or not. As for keeping track of it, it would probably be just depending on the finance reports. But at the same time, I don't know if it's really going to affect anything because to keep track of where the money's coming from, unless we're going to have some sort of like place that we cannot get money from, or it's going to actually matter, such as you can't rob a bank in order to get money to help your campaign, then I don't really see the point of actually keeping track.
Okay. Voting on ending debate. All those in favor of ending debate, please raise your hand at this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Please put your hands high. I know we're getting tired, but we have to do it count accurately.
All those in favor of ending debate, please raise your hand high. On this amendment, yes. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 opposed. 1, 2, 3. Abstentions. 1, 2. Debate on this amendment ends 16, 3, 2. I don't know what you're saying. I can't hear you. Everyone clear on the amendment? You want to read it? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, middleman trying to answer. The amendment is twofold to basically insert in Article 6, at 6.03.04 to read where the candidates, where, in other words, they have to declare where the candidates receive money spent, including donations and self-finance. And then the other portion is to amend 6.08 to insert after 5 calendar days campaign contributions to make it consistent between the two.
Everyone clear? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand at this time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 14, 15, 16. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Abstentions? 1. Motion passes 16-5-1. Further discussion on the elections code in its entirety. Representative Lohner.
Very short amendment to section 3.04.07, add to the end where it's in addition to the executive secretary of the back, add and the Senate administrative assistant.
Can you say that louder? He has that. You got that, yeah.
Okay, again, at the end of section 3.04.07, I want that, and the Senate administrative assistant.
Okay. It's already been seconded. I heard a second. Okay. Objections to this amendment? Nope. Okay. Passes. Further discussion on the elections code. Entire elections code. Representative Szymanski?
Motion to end debate on bill.
Second.
Objections to ending debate? Okay, roll call vote on the entire elections code. Secretary?
One. Okay, Michael Aldinger,
Yes.
Justin Bish,
Yes.
Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Ralph Cavallo,
Yes.
Dustin Dove,
Yes.
Nicholas Heim, Hubert Hines,
Yes.
Andrew Karasek,
Yes.
John King,
Yes.
Daniel Lurch, Sam Loner,
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard,
Yes.
Stephen Lucas, Nick Vance,
No.
Haley McClurnan, Sean Malloy, Samantha Miller,
Yes.
Christopher Morel, Christopher Knox,
Yes.
Ellie Ockelberg, Greg Plum,
Yay.
Brian Poland, I'm so sorry, Kelly Potter,
Yes.
Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Amy Sanders, Philip Slusser,
Yes.
Richard Trumansky,
Yes.
Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith,
Yes.
Michael Smith, Michael Wallace, Carrie Singer,
Yeah, did you
you didn't get that, or, yeah, I did. Well, okay, so 21.
Elections code passes 21-10. Moving on,
Wait, what was it?
21-10. 22-10. Okay. Liaison reports, Graduate Student Association, Joanne Olson.
You will remember nothing I say. I'll email you about the blood drive.
Great. Arsh Liaison, Kayla.
First off, thanks for passing your elections code because now we get to pass ours. So, props. I've got nothing else.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't have you stand for questions, but are there questions for either of the liaisons? No? Okay, thanks. Moving on to report by the association directors and staff. Chief of Staff, Mike Anderson, still with us.
Oh, we're still here. That was thoroughly entertaining. As one of the original authors of the Elections Code, it's a surreal experience to see people so excited about it years later. We have a written report, but we ran out of paper in the UPUA office, so what I've done is emailed it to Ralph and Gavin and asked them to use their listserv powers to send that out to all of you. That being said, I think I'll let us get home tonight.
Any questions for the entire exec board? Okay, moving on. Committee reports. Mr. Carvello, steering committee.
The reports in front of you, I had a couple points, we'll save them for next week. I am passing around a sign-up sheet in which on-campus reps and off-campus reps are required to sign up for 2 meeting dates, either for Borough Council or ARSH, and they will be strictly enforced for Borough Council and ARSH moving forward, so we at least have 2 representatives at all times going. This is a minimum time commitment, so if you have not signed up and you're an off-campus rep or an on-campus rep, make sure you do that and email me, otherwise I'll be emailing you. Thank you.
Questions, Representative Moy?
Yeah, to clarify, what positions are now vacant? I didn't use that.
We have 2 at-large positions, 1 at-large position and 1 off-campus position, and not including agreed council seats. Yeah, okay, so 1 at-large, are you saying there's 2 men?
No, say right.
Oh, okay, so there's 2 academic seats, 1 on campus, 1 off campus, 1 at-large, and 2 Greek seats, 3 Greek seats now. 8 people.
Any other questions for Mr. Carvello? Representative Mance?
But do you know when we'll have more paper?
I have asked Mike Anderson, and now the new treasurer, now that he's here, to purchase the money, to purchase the paper that we can buy with the UPAC funds. We have $700 spent on office supplies. I think we should all go paper.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on to internal development, Mr. Karasik.
Thank you for passing that and keeping it short. The only other thing that I will say is, if you want to be on the elections hearing board, which deals with election night discipline, please email me. First preference goes to UPUA members who are on their way out. That is all I have. Just email me about that.
Any questions? Representative Szymanski?
Possibly be on the elections commission and
No.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on, programming, Mr. King.
I'm not sure that my report was fine, so.
Any questions for programming? Status of Wallapalooza? It's rolling around, all right. Any other questions? Yes.
We're trying to get Asher roll, the rapper.
Can everyone hear? Representative Potter, what was your question?
Is there a DJ for Wallapalooza?
We're trying to get Asher roll to come, so. No.
Asher Roth, YouTube it. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for programming. Mr. Mance, facilities?
Everyone should have my vision report in front of them. Just want to say the task force is going well so far, so I know that probably one or two more meetings, at least one more. This past week went to the IM building expansion feasibility project meeting. Very interesting ideas that I feel that they have to go for expansion to IM building. Got another meeting that coming up at the end of the month. And I still have to come to the platform for the facilities team board. My apologies for the delay with that. That might be a more difficult process than I did at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Mance? Nope. Okay, thank you. Academic Affairs, Mr. Smith.
No, my report's in front of you. The base thing is, in fact, I said we're having an amendment come forward, 4420, next month is number 3. So I can take any questions by email or otherwise.
Any questions? Okay. Ms. Miller, Governmental Affairs.
I apologize, I had a report that wasn't included in the packet, so I'll talk for a second. March 4th has been set for the Tuition Awareness Day that the Governmental Affairs Committee is hosting. It's part Valley, part education, because it's going to include not only appropriations issues, but also issues with philanthropy and donor relations to the university, and ways the university park can cut down their costs. The locations of that are going to be on the Old Bay patio and the whole first floor of the hub, so the whole day on the 4th. The reason for the 4th is because the CCHG rally in the Rotunda has been set for March 18th, and we want to do a way to lead up to that and also let CCHG sign people up as an effort to work with them for the rally. I am going to start to work on the rally because I think it is important, especially now that we do showcase in Harrisburg on the 18th, not only to support CCHG, but to support our own well-being, as well as well-being of our constituents in terms of tuition issues and appropriations from Harrisburg.
Questions? Okay, so if I understand this, you want us to send people with CCSG to the rally in the Rotunda?
Yes, I'm going to look into bus prices depending on how my budget falls after some of our other projects are budgeted for and paid for.
No, I just want to make sure everyone's clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right, Diversity in Campus Life, Mr. Lucas is not here tonight. So moving, Representative Knopf?
Oh, you want me to get to the
Sure,
diversity board?
yeah, thanks.
Alright, so we're working on diversity, president, social, and that should be coming up in March. Legislation for that should be coming up next week. We have Civil History of Penn State by Megan Quinn. I think legislation for that should also be coming up next week. Then we have the Legislative Quarterly, which is going to tally up all the votes and all the events that happened this UPUA session. We're going to print it out and give it to everybody to populate everything. Legislation for that should also be coming up next week. Comes to our meetings Tuesday, 5:45 in the UP office. Thank you.
Boys, you have questions?
No questions.
Okay, hold on. All right, moving on. Item 12 comes from the good of the order. Representative Karasik?
Very, very quickly, I want to thank everybody for staying tonight, especially our liaison, Mary, who just stuff down. And the liaisons are gonna get the gift that I was gonna give to the best dressed because they technically.
Who would have won best dressed?
Gavin and Chris.
Alright, that's 2 boys though. Males.
Yeah.
Whatever.
best dressed.
Okay, Representative Malloy.
Yeah, more serious thing, I sent this over to listserv and only one person responded to me, but couldn't do it. Me and Andrew both currently sit on the student organization special committee on recognition. Alright, UQA has 2 seats on this special committee, and basically what they're doing is they're evaluating the way the university recognizes student organizations here at Penn State. And basically anything is on the table. That can mean UQA could get involved and much more, or I don't know what they're currently doing, but I can no longer attend the meetings and Andrew can no longer attend the meetings. They're Tuesdays at between 3:30 and 5:30, mostly 4:30 is when they start, 4 o'clock, 4:30. I'll send it out over listserv once again, but if anyone is interested, I really think UQA should be represented on this board. I feel that UQA should be getting more involved in that regard, but sadly I can no longer represent UQA. So if you're interested in representing UQA, please let me know. Thank you.
Representative Lombard.
I don't know if you've heard yet, but Tron's having a raffle. $5 ticket, you can either win a 2009 Suzuki SX4 crossover grand prize, cruise for 2 to Bermuda, or a brand new Dell laptop. It's only $5. If you'd like to purchase one, please let me know. Also, if you're interested in going on our next canning trip, which is the 13th to the 15th, please let me know. We still have one left. This is the last one of the year, so let's do well with that.
Good question.
Sure.
Sure.
Andy, what's the deal with dancers? Were we able to do the funding?
Tomorrow we'll find out.
So we were able to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Representative Slessor.
Alright, just 2 things. Thank you everyone for doing debate tonight. Not only we had a serious debate, but we actually got something accomplished. Excuse my Greek, but you'll hear more of it. I want people to get fired up. From the College of Ag, Harvest to Household, and Ag Fair on Hub Lawn, April 22nd, rain date April 28th. DTS fraternity trying to get a truck smash. We're going to do it anyway. We're trying to get them a Hub Lawn. Pay like $1 for a couple smacks. And if anyone either wants to have life-changing experience in the Gremlin Jungle Peanut like I am, or follows man code that explicitly states that you have to ride a bull before you die, back in the room after the meeting.
Representative Paul, Mr. Pullen, did you want to say something? Yeah. I know he's not a representative, but you can say something.
Alright. The National Assembly and the Council is voting to amend their bylaws on next Tuesday. If they vote in favor of the amendment, it would always ensure equal representative from that council. Just wanted to say.
Any other comments? Representative Szymanski.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody here who voted for me and for the kind words that you put forth on my behalf. You know, that you've actually made my last campaign here at State College a successful one. It's the last thing I can ever run for here, and not gonna lie, it's a little sad. But anyway, I was hoping that, I know it must not be part of the rules, but I was hoping that the president could swear me in. But I would like my hand on the official elections code.
Okay, we can do that after the meeting if anyone wants to stick around. Any other comments for the good of the order? Mr. Kierans.
Real quick, the first thing I talked about today is the idea of doing the rally on Monday, the Rally Says press conference. Real important that everybody's there. I don't know if it's going to change the world, but I think it's an important stance we need to make as far as the idea of the state schools and the community college getting additional aid and the 4 state-related schools not being addressed. Definitely think it's very important. So I expect you all there. I'm going to send you out an email tomorrow because if you do have a class, it's at 12 o'clock. I'm going to talk to Damon tomorrow, see if we can't get you university excused absences and if that works for you, if you're able to miss classes. So I don't want you to fall behind your classes, but I do want you to attend. So hopefully we can create a compromise. Thanks.
Other comments? No? Okay, closing roll call. Secretary. Don't go crazy either. Roll call.
Mike Aldinger. Sorry, everything's all over the place. Mike Anderson.
Here.
Justin Bitch. Mark Cannon,
Kind of.
Rob Camello,
Here.
Dustin Dove,
Here.
Adam Perone, Pat Gordon, Nicholas Heim, Hubert Hines,
Here.
Andrew Kerstead,
Here.
Gavin Kieran, John King,
Here.
Kayla McPherson, sorry, I just have Arshon.
Here.
David Large, Sam Mulner,
Here.
Benjamin Lombard, Stephen Lucas, Nick Nance,
Here.
Haley McKernan, Sean Malloy, Samantha Miller, Christopher Morrell, Jacob Munn, Christopher Knott,
Present.
Ellie Opelberg, Joanne Olson, Greg Klum, Bryant Poland,
Here.
Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Valerie Russell, Amy
Present.
Sanders, Philip Slosser,
President or council.
Richard Jermansky, Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith,
Here.
Michael Smith, Ricardo Torres, Ian Vickery, Michael Wallace, Cindy Wong, Kara Zinger, Nicole Dix.
Does anyone want to wait till we get to 1 o'clock?
Can I see the
Okay.
three
Adjourned.
elected representatives up here, and also I need to sign the sheet.